And it's that time again. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It's Friday night, TGIF. And you can see I have with me Pauly Hart tonight. My good friend, my buddy, my bro, Pauly Hart. I had the opportunity a couple of weeks ago, Pauly, was it 2 or 3 weeks ago? I'm not really sure. Went down to his house down in Georgia. Hopefully he doesn't mind me saying he lives in Georgia. Of course, I'm in South Carolina. I got to go Shabbat with him. That was a lot of fun. And tonight we are in week 36, I think the third week of Numbers. And as you can see here, it looks like the cover of a romance novel or something like that. With I spent a long time trying to come up with that with Moshe there and his woman, and we'll see how that plays out tonight. Let's see. Before I get into this tonight, one of the ways that Yah speaks to me is through animals. And because I think he knows that I love animals, I love his creation very much. And I have felt him speaking to me, touching me or giving me messages through everything from like bison and cattle and sheep, a raccoon one time. One time there was a wolf, interesting enough. But I gave the story a couple weeks ago about my, the kind of the struggles that I'm going with through in this ministry, in, putting my faith in Yah. If he has called me to this ministry, he's going to provide for me. He's going to take care of me, right? And I gave them the story of when I was off in the woods and this guy just comes up to me and he's listening to my podcast as he passes me by. And it was just this incredible story. It was a total confirmation that that
Whoa. You can't just say, oh, yeah, that was a great story. But anyway, I mean, come on. Tell the story, man. Come on.
Well, okay. I mean, I'll repeat this one more time. Pauly does like the story.
It's such a good story. It's so wonderful.
So I was usually, that was about halfway through the month. So we're about halfway through the month. And again, it's always halfway through the month where I start really getting stressful because I'm looking, I'm like, am I bringing in the finances to take care of my family this month? It doesn't look like it's panning out. And every month so far, it has worked out perfectly. Like Yah has brought it and he's been faithful. And so thank you, everyone who has been a part of that blessing us, been a part of Yah's call to bless us. And anyways, it was my wife's birthday. It was May 20th. And we don't celebrate birthdays or anything like that. But I said to my wife, so she turned 42. And I was like, what do you want to do? You want me to cook you something? I cook you steaks. She loves steaks. Or do you want me to take you out to dinner? What do you want? And she was thinking about it. She's like, well, let's just go, walking through the park. And then, of course, we went out to food, a restaurant afterwards. But this specific park, it's not like just a manicured, green lawn. This is South Carolina, rugged woods. It's a jogger path where there's miles and miles of just you go through the dense, thick forest. And the whole hour and a half that we're walking through here, we only encountered like 5 other people, and they were all jogging. We were the only ones walking. And the reason you jog through there is to outrun the mosquitoes, because we were just slapping ourselves like that at some parts. And I was talking to my wife, and I'm just really stressed about trying to make this work. And there's nothing I can do, with the finances, right? I'm at everyone's mercy. And I was telling my group before we started the story again tonight, and I felt the Ruach HaKodesh speak to me. And the Ruach said, can you add one day to your life by worrying? And I heard that. I knew clearly this is the Ruach speak to me. I'm like, no, I can't. I can't add one day to my life. And it was just one of those moments where, again, I had to surrender it and hand it over to Yah and be like, there's nothing I can do about this. I'm just going to trust in you. And it was right after that moment happened, and I'm feeling a little bit better. This guy comes quickly, walking at a fast pace. He wasn't jogging. He was walking at a fast pace. So this is like maybe the 6th guy we encountered in like an hour and a half. And he's listening to something on his phone. He passes me up, and I could feel like his presence, like he's turning and looking at me as he passes. And I go and I look, and he looks back at me, and Sarah said she saw the look on my face, like I had this look of terror. Because I thought like, oh man, the Fed is going to like jump out of the bush. Like this is the moment. Or I was thinking like, this is the I've been watching too many movies. Like this is the Terminator. He's come back to take me out. This is like the moment of my assassination. And he's like, Noel Hadley. And I'm like, wait, what? Like no one has ever recognized me publicly before. Now, conferences, things like that, it's different. No one has ever called me out on a sidewalk who knows me just exclusively from my podcast, not to mention in the backwoods. And anyways, yeah, he's listening to the podcast, the live I did with Ager from South Africa, the one on the Nephilim and the gold mysteries. You guys can look that up if you haven't seen it yet. The Little Season Gold Mysteries, I think it's called, which is really interesting because the whole thing was about greed of money and this Nephilim thing and all this kind of stuff. And he actually said that he gave his name. And he was the name of Rebecca's son, Fred. Now, if you guys know who Rebecca is, she's the woman that this ministry supports. We're full time. We're supporting her. We got to come up with the income every week to support her on top of my family. And I'm hoping to add more widows and women into this as it comes in. But that was a total confirmation from y'all. Now, afterwards, after this happened, I'm like, okay, yeah, you got me. You showed me a sign, because I'm not one of those guys who usually needs to see signs. I just trust the Bible. I believe in it. Yah has confirmed his reality in the world and all that kind of stuff. I just believe it to be true. But I said, you know what? Not that I was testing him, but I'm like, I feel like I need to see another sign. Like I need to see something else. So Pauly, I didn't tell you this one. And I said, I have this oak tree, this beautiful oak tree right outside of our house. The oak tree is older than this country. It goes back to the 1600s. Beautiful big oak tree. And I said, yeah, can you put an owl in that tree? I love owls. Just put an owl in that tree as a confirmation that you're going to take care of me and my family. So I went and looked at the tree. Nothing happened. 15 minutes go by, an hour goes by, nothing happens. I'm like, okay. So I go back to work. A couple days later, my son comes in and says, Dad, there's an owl. He didn't know about this prayer. He said, there's an owl in that tree. I'm like, what? I went out there and looked. They were right there on the branch. There's just an owl just hanging out. He's sleeping, just asleep. He's just hanging out. And I just looked at this owl. I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. There's an owl in this tree. So, I mean, this is not something that happens every day. All right. So there's a third time. I was praying like, yeah, like, I want turtles. Okay, you gave me the guy in the woods named Fred. You gave me the owl. I need turtles. I need there to be turtles. So now, just to be fair, my wife, she's one of those amazing. She's a stay-home mom, but she's one of those kind of stay-home moms. When the baby goes down for a nap, she goes out and like builds a dock or something like that. Like literally in the last couple of weeks, she built a dock, a boat dock out there. Right? That's what she does. She just does that. So she had leftover supplies, and she basically, for me as a gift, she built me a little turtle dock out there. And so I pray, I'm like, I want some turtles there. And so again, nothing happens that day. Nothing happens the next day. But then my son, again, same son, Eric, he runs in and he's like, you got to see this. He didn't know about the prayer. I go out there and I look, and there's this big honking turtle walking across my wife's brand new deck that she just built, like just walking across. And I'm watching it. And then today, the whole time preparing today, I saw 4 different turtles out there fighting to get on the platform. And I'm just like, there it is again. So Yah is really amazing. And it was actually in the turtle and the owl. That's why I said that, he speaks to me a lot through animals, and he knows I love animals. So I'm hoping that, whatever my heavenly abode is going to look like, that it's going to be some sort of like animal preserve or something like that. But all right. Well, on that note, let's get started tonight, Pauly. And so Pauly knows the drill, that I'm going to read through each chapter. Looks like we have 8, 9, 10, 11, 5 chapters to go through, or 4.5. I'm going to read through each chapter, and I'm going to hand it over to him for first commentary. Thank you for being here, Pauly.
You're welcome. And might I just really add a little bit to your story. There are 52,990,000 podcasts in the world. There are 6 billion people or so in the world. There are popularized 164,000 English names in the world. So you take that all, times it together. The chances of you meeting Fred, listening to your podcast, are 5.22502.596 to the 22nd power of that happening. So I submit to you that it was an angel, and anybody here is invited to the party in the great hereafter, where we are going to sit down and hear Fred's side of the story, because I think, I love you, Noel. I love you so much. But I think that Fred maybe just had the one assignment. Maybe he was like, okay, got to go to the woods. Okay, I got to listen to the podcast. Okay.
And we'll find out that his Hebrew name is Fred A.L.
Fred A.L. Exactly. Anyway, I just wanted to add that in there.
All right. Well, let's look at last week's review. We had the fig tree generation came by for a visit. And I compared the diseased that in that section with the defiled with the war scroll. The war scroll course is found in Qumran, the war of the sons of light against the sons of darkness. And I did a presentation on the war scroll this last Tuesday, comparing to the entry point of the millennial kingdom. But what's so fascinating about the war scroll, it mirrors the book of Numbers. It's side by side. It mirrors, and it basically what we're going through in Numbers. So you have Leviticus, which is the heart of the very Bible itself, not just the Torah. It's the very heart of the Bible, having the same heart that Yah has. And of course, it's interesting enough that the one book that's the most ripped out of the Bible, right? It's the one that just brings terror to people when they think about it, which is kind of interesting to think about. So you get the heart of the Bible. It's dictated in Leviticus, and then you have Numbers, all about the preparing to enter the land, which is what we're planning to do, guys. Everyone out there, we want to enter the promised land. That is our heavenly abode, whatever you want to call it, the afterlife, our eternal inheritance. We are wandering through the wilderness right now, planning to enter. And so that's where we're at. We looked at the cup of jealousy and wrath. The idea that the cup was given to a woman suspected of adultery by a jealous husband. And of course, depending on the outcome, what I love about this is that Yah himself would have to judge whether she was truly adulterous or not. He would be the one. And if she was truly adulterous, then the child would die. She was swollen at the hips, meaning she was pregnant. The child would die, but if she was not, she would live. And this would be Yah's doing. And I pointed out that the dead child or the living child is, I believe, a symbol of our resurrection. Either we make the cut or we don't. Either we resurrect by the power of the Father, or we don't, just as Yahusha passed the test and the Father resurrected him. Of course, he was perfect and sinless, and of course, we're not. Just make that clear for everybody out there. Of course, we saw that the cup was given to Yahushua HaMashiach on our behalf. The same cup we see given to the whore of Babylon, in which it does not go so well. And of course, all the nations drink out of this cup. And I showed how the cup of jealousy plays out with Shavuot. There were 3,000 killed at the golden calf incident. That was Shavuot. Interestingly enough, there were. It says about 3,000. It could have been 2,987. I don't really know, or 3,002 or whatever. But it said about the same number. About 3,000 were filled with the Ruach HaKodesh on Shavuot after the resurrection. So that's really interesting. And in the case of the first Shavuot at the golden calf, Moshe is bringing down the 10 commandments, the law of stone. He throws it down. Of course, they were sapphire or whatever. They were a bone of the firmament, but you guys follow along. He throws it down. He breaks it. Right. That's the law, the Torah of stone, right? The uncircumcised heart. But with the Ruach HaKodesh, we get the Torah that is written on the heart, as per Jeremiah, the prophecy, the promise that we can have it. We can keep the Torah. We can keep it on our hearts. I showed you the cup of jealousy as it played out with book of Susanna or Shoshana. We talked about Samson, of course, with the Nazirite vow. And I asked the question, was he a giant? And that comes from the cities of Bashan, the book I quoted from. I showed you the Merovingian dynasty, which is kind of fun. The barbarian kings, the Franks, that actually, of course, they established the Frankish Empire throughout France and Germany. Interesting storyline, of course. They were known as the long-haired kings, and they attributed their superpowers to their long hair. Many people, a lot of the normies are kind of waking up to this now and asking, did they take Nazirite vows? And then I ended at least my end of the discussion, the fig tree generation. Go check it out if you haven't. They had a lot of great commentary, just a great conversation between us. But I ended my end by asking the question: does hair hold spiritual energy and memories? And does this play into the Nazirite vow? Right? You got to be. If you take a Nazirite vow, you got to be serious about keeping the Torah. Like, you got to be really serious. And there's something about the hair growing out. So, all right, now this week, we're seeing Yasharel, they're having difficulty adjusting to militant life. We see that they're getting into formation. They form like a tav, the warp and the wolf, which I suggested was, this is just a theory, but I suggested the possibility that this was a sign to the spirits in the ether, the prince of the power of the air. Yahuwah, he's basically like, look, see this tav down here? That's mine. That's my mark. These are my people. Don't mess with them. Wherever they go, they're coming in to defeat you guys. But they're having a hard time adjusting to this militant life. They're undisciplined. They yearn for the life they knew in Egypt. We're going to be seeing that tonight. And thereby showing that they're not ready to conquer Canaan. In fact, one of the rabbinical commentators, I like the way he said it. He said that when they left Sinai, it was equivalent to a boy when the bell rings, saved by the bell in school, and he runs out really excited that he doesn't have to listen to instruction anymore. That they were there for a couple years, they got their instruction, they got their Torah, and then they're like, I'm free. They thought when they left Sinai, they were free, they were good to go, and it didn't end so well for them. Now we're going to see an interesting breakdown of events tonight. We're going to see Hobab or Chabab, who is Moshe's brother-in-law through his father-in-law, that he doesn't want to join Yasharel. And we saw the same thing with Yethro, his father-in-law, earlier. He leaves. Moshe then complains about the weight of responsibility upon him, in which then the Ruach, which is upon him, it's divided between the 70, and they start receiving it, which then sparks this response where all these people start prophesying. That creates jealousy in the camp, especially among two that are in the camp. And then that goes into, from the prophesying to people complaining again about not having enough meats, people start dying. And then it goes into Moshe's wife, jealousy there among her siblings. So there's a lot of jealousy, a lot of contemptual behavior. Interesting breakdown of events. So let's get right into it. Numbers chapter 8 through 12 from the Paleo Hebrew. I need a drink of coffee. I'm ready now. And Yahuwah, the ever-living, set words in order toward Al-Mashahah to declare. Set forth words toward Al-Aaron and make declaration toward him. And you're causing the lights to ascend. He shall light 7 lamps toward the face of the menorah. And Aaron fashioned in the manner in the front of the face of the menorah. He caused the lamps to ascend like that which Yahuwah the ever-living had commanded Mashahah. And this is the workmanship of the menorah. It is a turned work of gold as far as the side unto her blossom, like that which Yahuwah the ever-living had shown until Mashahah. Even so, in that manner was fashioned the Athha menorah. And Yahuwah the ever-living set words in order toward Al-Mashahah to declare, take the Levites, or the La-Wah-Yam, from the midst of their sons of Yasharel and make them shine. That's a really interesting translation there from Pamela. I like that to make them shine. And in this manner you shall fashion for them to make them shine. Sprinkled water of the sin offering, and let pass over a razor over all their flesh, and wash his clothes, and so make him to shine. And take a young bullock, son of the herd, and his gift offering of fine flour mixed with oil, and a second young bullock, son of the herd, you shall take for a sin offering, And you shall bring near the Wayam, the Levites, to the face of the tent of meeting, and shall gather all the assembled sons of Yasharel. And you shall bring near the Wayam to the face of Yahweh the ever-living, and the sons of Yasharel shall support their hands over the Wayam. And Aaron shall wave the Wayam, the Levites, as a wave offering to the face of Yahweh the ever-living from the sons of Yasharel, and he will exist to work the work of service unto Yahweh. And he will station the Wayam to the face of Aaron and to the face of his sons, and shall wave them for a wave offering unto Yahweh the ever-living. Then shall the Wayam be separated from the midst of the sons of Yasharel, and the Wayam shall exist for me. And afterwards, in this manner, shall the Wayam enter into the service of the tent of meeting, and you shall make them to shine, and shall wave them as a wave offering. For as a gift, they are given unto me from the midst of the sons of Yasharel, in the place of the firstlings of any womb, the Baka-ur of all the sons of Yasharel. I have taken them unto me. For to me all the Baka-ur among the sons of Yasharel, among Adam and among beasts, on the day in my striking against all the established firstborn in Eretz Matzarim, I made them set apart unto me. So isn't that interesting there, how he's comparing the Levites as a firstborn for him in comparison to the first sons of Mitzrayim who were struck down. And I have gifted the Wayam as gifted ones unto Aaron and to his sons from the midst of the sons of Yasharel, to work the work of service for the sons of Yasharel in the tent of meeting, and to make a covering atonement over the sons of Yasharel, that no plague exist among the sons of Yasharel when the sons of Yasharel and drawing near toward the Kudash. And Mashaha and Aaron and all the gathered assembly of the sons of Yasharel did fashion unto the Wayam, like all which Yahweh the ever-living had commanded unto Mashaha for the Wayam. In that manner, the sons of Yasharel fashioned unto them, and the Wayam were cleansed, and they washed their garments. And Aaron waved them as a wave offering to the face of Yahweh the ever-living. And Aaron made a covering atonement over them to make them shine. And afterwards, in that manner, the Wayam did enter to work their work of service in the tent of meeting unto the face of Aaron and unto the face of his sons, like that which Yahweh the ever-living had commanded Mashaha over the Wayam. In that manner he fashioned unto them. And Yahweh the ever-living set words in order toward Al-Mashaha to declare, this is that which is for the Wayam. From a son aged 25 years and higher, he shall enter into the host in the work of service in the tent of meeting. And from a son aged 50 years, he shall turn back from the host in the work of service. And he shall not serve any longer, but he shall minister with his brothers in the tent of meeting to keep watch, and shall not do service. Like this you will fashion for the Wayam concerning their service. And this concludes, I think that's chapter 8 right there. So, Pauly, heading over to you if you have any thoughts or notes on that chapter.
I do. So, you're out in the desert, and the God you trust tells you all get naked, shave everything, and eat some tacos. But you got to have these gold candlesticks, right?
I'm following on this when you said tacos.
I mean, yeah, but what, you got the grain offering, you got anyway. So it's very, very telling that not just last week we hear hair. Hair is mentioned as a source of strength, and I think it's very, very interesting that to shave everything, all flesh. I mean, there's little hairs that grow on my toes that I don't even really worry about, but this time, this is very interesting. All the hair got to be gone. Your eyebrows. My poor wife. I love her and she loves me, but on our wedding day, I shaved my eyebrows off. There she is. She's coming out to smack me in the head. Hey, come here. Come here. This is my beautiful wife.
Hey, Jennifer, thank you for letting me play with your husband.
He says thank you. Were you happy that I shaved my eyebrows?
Absolutely not.
Okay, go away. I love you, baby. So, it's so interesting and it's telling that I think that he wants the Levites to be completely hairless in this one instance, to be shiny, right? What's more shiny than a newborn baby? It's just mind blowing that hair comes up yet again. Now, I have something else to say, and this is about gold. Now, gold, um, the word "good" in Genesis 1, it occurs I think 9 times. Sorry, 10 times, and it's Genesis 1 and 2, and it's talking about uh, the days of creation. Every day of creation is good. Every day is good. Every day is good. Every day is good. And so here we are. The eighth time it's mentioned, and the ninth time it's mentioned is about the fruit of the garden, the tree of good and evil, and that's the word good. But then the next time it's mentioned about a noun that's not this actual tree is about gold, and the gold was good. There was gold in those hills, and it was good, and that's the same word. And so God, Yahuwah, made gold good, and it does not tarnish. Gold does not have a patina. Gold does not ever lose a chemical value like silver does. Silver can be used as industry and it goes away. It's changed into a different form of matter. Gold persists and has always been used for showing the goodness of something. Now, I submit to you, in the garden, uh, Adam and Eve they didn't have stores to go to. Why did they need gold? It's because God wants gold to be shown for the blessing. And that's, I'm not a prosperity preacher. I'm just saying it's very telling that these vessels are made of this substance, and it could be pewter for all I know, but it's gold, and so there it is. And the last thing I want to mention is I do have Levitic blood in me, and I'm not a child of Aaron or a relative of Aaron, but I'm a Levite, and I'm 53 now. I've come 54 actually. So what am I doing? I don't get a I don't get a help out anymore. So that's my question. They're ministering after 50 years old. They're just like, are they preaching? Are they the janitors now? Are they just like telling the young boys, you can do it? Yeah. I don't know what their job is. It really doesn't really get specific. And anyway, I was just really curious about that. And Lisa just said it right there. So could a priest not be able to? So it's Aaron's tribe with the priest, but the Levite was a whole. I don't know Aaron's tribe, Aaron's family, but the Levites were all these other guys, and Aaron's group was just a small part. And so, who knows? I don't know what's going on there. Do you?
I know. I like Lisa's comment though here that if I'll read what she said. If the Levites all had a razor upon their whole body, which appears that they did, then they would have no hair. Which good uh, a deductive argument there, but it goes on. So does this mean they have no power apart from Yahuwah, perhaps? Because last week was stressed the power that comes from hair. So I thought that was kind of interesting there that they would. The idea is if they shaved everything, was it's
To show their weakness, right?
yeah.
And that's what for me it gives the argument to where Samson was a very small person. Like he wasn't a giant. Like because of his hair, it was a like, oh, how did you do that? If he was big and strong like Saul, it'd be like, oh yeah, because he's big and strong. But no, in my opinion, he was a small guy with long hair, kind of like some little hippie skater kid. Like, yeah, man, I'm gonna take this lion down. Yeah.
Yeah, I was having that conversation with my wife just this week, and we were talking about Samson, and that's what I said too. That I kind of imagine him like like he wasn't like. I mean, we don't get any indication he was going to the gym, right? He wasn't like just like this ripped, like Schwarzenegger guy that he's depicted in. I think that he was probably, I mean, pretty just a strong guy. I don't think he was a weak guy, but the whole idea is that when he's picking up that door and he's to escape the city and he's taking the whole door off the hinges and carrying up the hill and planting on the hill, that was a miraculous intervention from Yah through him, that it wasn't because the guy was just so ripped at the gym, that
Right.
he was able to do that.
Now, I played a lot of role-playing games as a child, and so you roll out your character sheet, and you have strength, constitution, and dexterity and speed. Now, it wasn't really a question, and we always missed this part, that he caught all his foxes. Do you know how fast a fox is? My wife and I used to own a fox. We also used to own a school bus. We're weird. But we used to own a fox, and they were ridiculously fast. And to catch a fox, no one was like, wow, how then can he catch this? He is so fast. No, I think he was small. because it takes a very agile person to catch something that small. Anyway, that's just a here, there, or whatever.
And the power of Samson, this supernatural spiritual strength. I pointed out last week too that Pamela, who is translating this the whole Torah from the Paleo Hebrew, and of course we're in Medabar now numbers, and we're going into, I don't know if it's going to be anything like Devarim or how it's going to be pronounced when she delivers it, but this has been an incredible to watch Pamela turn these out, and it's clearly Yah is with her. And there's a and I should point out, of course, she has taken the Nazarite vow. It's been quite a while now. I know that through this whole process of the translation, she has had a Nazarite vow, and so the strength from Yah that comes through it when someone is at a deeper level of this kind of a set apart lifestyle, it's not just Samson, let's pick up though, I can imagine, maybe a scenario happens where Pamela just rips off a door and you never know.
Hopefully not your house on your new porch.
Yeah, no.
I was talking to Pam at your house, and hopefully Pam doesn't mind about talk about this, but she was like, what do you think, Pauly? Is plucking a hair is that breaking the Nazarite vow? And for me, I did the Nazarite vow for a little while, off and on. I've done it back and forth. I'm not in one now, but I'm lazy. But I believe that Yeshua took the Nazarite vow along with his cousin John Baptist. And
at what point do you think he took it, at the Last Supper or beforehand?
I believe he took it when he started. I believe he took it before he went and got baptized. I believe he took it. Maybe there's an argument for having taken it when he got his bar mitzvah, when he went to the temple to start preaching, but I don't know that. I just am guessing when he started the ministry, and when they ripped out his beard along the way to be strung up on a gibbet or whatever the case is, from your talk last night with Lou. Yeah, that was kind of mind blowing. That I don't believe that if your hair is pulled out, I don't believe it's breaking the Nazarite vow. But then again, I'm not a barber nor a theologian. Well, I'm kind of a theologian, but I'm not one of
I actually never thought about that before. That is a really interesting. We see that the high priest rips his robe and all this stuff, and they're breaking Torah all over the place. It was a very unjust trial. I never actually thought about that before. That's an interesting thought, that if they knew that he had taken a Nazarite vow. So if he had taken a Nazarite vow at the Last Supper, at the Pascha meal, which I'll be mentioning tonight, they might have not known that. They wouldn't have known that he took Nazarite vow. But if they had known that he was a Nazarite that entire time, and they're ripping out his beard, that's a very serious thing. So
yeah. Now we know that he wouldn't cut his hair for the dead, like the command. Don't shave your hair for the dead. Don't get tattoos for the dead. But yeah, no, I don't know. I can't recall if I found scripture or extra biblical texts that showed that the Pharisees or the high Sanhedrin or anybody, or the Essenes even, were cutting their hair from the fake lugubriousness of Yeshua calling himself one with the Father. I don't know. I haven't found that, but that would be interesting to find. But anyway, I digress. That's it. Chapter 8.
All right, let's go to chapter 9. And Yahuwah, the ever-living, set words in order toward Al-Mashahah in the wilderness of Sinai, or Sayanuya. In the second year of their going forth from Aratz Mitzrayim, in the first Kadash, to declare. And the sons of Yasharel shall fashion the Pesach in the appointed time. And this is, of course, talking about the Pesach, or the Passover. And I think in the Paleo, I might pronounce that Pesach. I'm not sure, Pamela, but everyone knows that's the Passover. On the 14th day of the Kadash, between the dusk, you shall fashion him in his appointed season, like all his statutes, and like all his judgments shall you fashion him. And Mashahah set words in toward. I'm sorry, I'm stumbling tonight, guys. And Mashahah set words in toward the sons of Yasharel to fashion the Pesach. And he fashioned him the Pesach in the first, on the 14th day of Kadash, between the dusk in the wilderness of Sayanuya, like all that which Yahuwah the ever-living had commanded Mashahah. In that manner, the sons of Yasharel did fashion him, and there were men who existed unclean to a nephash of Adam. And of course, when you guys read Adam here, it's not talking about the first man, Adam. It's just, the word for man, the soul of man. And they were not able to fashion the Pesach on that day. And they drew near unto the face of Meshach and unto the face of Aaron on that day. And the men, those speaking toward him, declared, we are defiled of a nephash of Adam. To what purpose are we withheld so as not to approach with the offering of Yahuwah the ever-living on his appointed time in the midst of the sons of Yasharel? Now, of course, we'll be talking about this, but if you're not following, this is a big issue because these men, they're coming up on Passover. These men are unclean. They have touched a dead body. Someone died. They helped bury him or whatever. And they're like, I can't bring a sacrifice now. And we're commanded to do this. How are we supposed to deal with this situation? And Meshach declared toward them, persevere, and I will hear and obey what Yahuwah the ever-living commands unto you. So Moshe, he doesn't know what to do. So he's going to go talk to Yahuwah about it. And Yahuwah the ever-living set words and orders toward Al-Meshach to declare, set words and orders toward the sons of Yasharel to declare, if any man exists unclean of nephash, his soul, or perhaps on a pathway distant from you, or perhaps in the circuit of your generations, and he would fashion the Pesach of Yahuwah, the ever-living, in the second Kadash, on the 14th day between the dusk, he may fashion him with unfermented bread and bitter herbs shall he eat him. He shall not retain any part of him until daybreak. And he shall not break a bone of him like all the statues of the Pesach. So he shall fashion him. But the man who is clean, and he exists not on a distant pathway and leaves off from fashioning the Pesach, then that nephash shall be cut off from his people, for he did not draw near with the offering of Yahuwah at his appointed time. That man shall carry his calamity, his fault, his penalty of sin. And if a stranger who dwells among you, and he fashions the Pesach unto Yahuwah the ever-living, according to the statutes of the Pesach, according to his judgments, in like manner he shall fashion. One statute shall exist to you, both for the stranger and for the native born of the land. And on the day the Mashkan dwelling place was raised up, a cloud mass covered the Mashkan dwelling place of the tent of the revealed precepts. And in the Arab, he existed over the Mashkan dwelling place like the appearance of fire unto Bakur. And this word here is, I think we just read that, daybreak. So let me read that again. Where was I? He existed over the Mashkan dwelling place like the appearance of fire until daybreak. Oh, it actually says that next word. Never mind. In that manner, it existed continually. He covered him as a cloud mass by day and the appearance of fire by night. When the mouth of the cloud mass ascended from over the tent, and afterwards in that manner, the sons of Yasharel would pull up camp. And in the standing place where the cloud mass settled down to dwell, then the sons of Yasharel would set themselves down and camp. At the mouth of Yahuwah the ever-living, the sons of Yasharel would pull up camp. And upon the mouth of Yahuwah the ever-living, he would remain encamped all the days in which the cloud mass settled down to dwell of the Mashkan dwelling place. When upon the cloud mass tearing over the Mashkan dwelling place, time stretching out a great many days, the sons of Yasharel would keep watch over the stations of Yahuwah the ever-living, and did not pull up camp. The cloud mass, he will exist present, ready, innumerable days, over the Mashkan dwelling place, upon the mouth of Yahuwah the ever-living, he pulled up camp. And the cloud mass existed present, ready from Arab until Bakur, until from dusk until dawn, until daybreak, from dusk till dawn. And when the cloud mass ascended in daybreak, then they would pull up camp, or perhaps if he remained at daybreak, and at night the cloud mass ascended. So they would pull up camp, or perhaps 2 days, or perhaps a month, or perhaps days upon days, a year, that the cloud mass remained over the Mashkan dwelling place to set down over him. Then the sons of Yasharel remained encamped and did not pull up camp. So it's saying, sometimes it was just a day, sometimes it was a month, sometimes it was a year, and that it would go up and they would follow it wherever it went. And when he ascended, they lifted up upon the mouth of Yahuwah they encamped, and upon the mouth of Yahuwah they pulled up camp. They kept watch over the station of Yahuwah the ever-living, upon the mouth of Yahuwah the hand of Meshaha. All right. I am handing it over to you, Pauly, for first commentary on chapter 9.
You got to think about that child who grew up the first couple of years of his life in a desert. This is where I live. And then that's where the cloud is always. And that's where it always is. And then one day he gets up, maybe he's the first up out of his whole little area. Mom, the cloud's gone. What? Like, oh no, what do we do? What do we do? Well, this has happened before. No, it hasn't, not to me. You're 3, it's okay, don't worry about it.
One of the things I was thinking about today is did they have like, I don't know if anxiety is the right word, but it like you said, like you would wake up in the morning and that would be the first thing I would go and check. Is the cloud still there? Right. Like, you look out the window, but secondly, I was thinking like, how quickly did they break camp? Is this something that,
It'd be immediate, man. It would be like so fast. And I'm sure these elders, these guys in charge, and I think that's in the next couple chapters, they have appointed like a watcher, probably not anybody from Dan, but anybody the guys closest to the middle. They're like, all right, your turn. You're gonna watch tonight.
I would imagine, yeah, there would be like people even, I don't know if there's commands for, I don't think there's commands for this, but I would imagine there'd be people blowing trumpets to the whole camp, like, hey guys, wake up. But here's what I was thinking, because now, hopefully you don't mind me saying this, Pauly, because Pauly right now is building a house. It's going to be a beautiful, gorgeous house. When I was at when I went to Shabbat with you like 3 weeks ago, he took me on a tour of it, and there's still no staircase there. We had to go in through a ladder, and Pauly knows that my biggest fear in life is the fear of heights. I don't like ladders. I don't get along with them.
When you're thinking about it, because Noel did tell me a story about some of his photography adventures where he would be hanging off the side of a boulder, not thinking about the height, focused on the job and no fear.
Yeah. If I'm focusing on the job, I could jump out of an airplane photographing. If I were in a combat zone, it'd be fine, right? Yeah. But anyways, so all that to say is that Pauly right now is living in it's a fifth wheel, or no, it's a trailer, a pole trailer, right? And
small.
We also own a fifth wheel that 3 months out of every year we take it down to Florida. Sometimes we'll go out to Missouri, other places. We've spent 6 to 9 months at a time in it. And what the reason I'm saying this is that if we're going on a destination somewhere, like let's say it's going to take 3 days to get to our destination, we drive 10 hours, we park for the night, we know that cloud is going to lift the next day, right? So we're going to leave the next day. We're keeping everything, we're not messing anything up, right? Because we're breaking camp the next day. But if we're at a place for a month or 3 months, cleaning up takes, because you start letting things lay around, it takes a little bit more time. That was my whole point there, that I could just see a situation where they're there for 6 months and they're kind of settled in, and all of a sudden it's like, it went up. Okay, well, I guess we're packing everything up. It's going to take a few hours longer than normal. But anyways,
and they didn't have these little tiny plastic boxes to put stuff in, because those are lifesavers. I'll tell you, we've been here for a year, and the other one we were at for a year. I'll tell you, when we had to leave that one, they told us that we had to get rid of this, get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. I'm like, oh, okay. So now we're paying on 3 storage units, and I've been paying on those for 2 years now. So, but it's rough, and I'm quite sure that they did go under a cognitive dissonance every single time, because maybe the fire was not going to be there the next day. I don't know. Well, okay, you'll just go to bed. Just treat it like normal. So there was never a normal, because I don't think Yahuwah wanted them to settle into a norm. I think he wanted to keep them ready, right? Like later on, we start seeing, and you were talking about it, the logistics of this entire mechanism of tribes becoming armies. And that does happen. But I wanted to get back down into it. I think that it's very interesting, and I don't know the math on this because I'm not one of those guys who does all the math. But I don't know why it was repeated for those guys who had to skip the month, who touched the dead body, that they shouldn't break the bones, because that's already mentioned and do all the other commands too. Exodus 12:46. It's already there. Why repeat that part? And I think the only real reason that that part is repeated is because A, it's very important, but B is maybe, just maybe, it's to complete the mathematical mechanism of the total Pentateuch. And I can't be sure because I know that nothing is in there without purpose. But I'm like, why was that repeated? I don't know. But it's also a prophecy of Yeshua not having any of his bones broken as well.
Are you
And then
talking about like Bible codes or just the?
yeah. The Bible codes that people get really interested in, and the mathematical equation of
That
the
is
entire Pentateuch and the
that is
entire.
that is. I never actually thought about that before. That's actually really interesting because it was the same way with the menorah too. Like chapter 8, it starts talking about the menorah again. It's like, why? You already described the menorah in, I think, Leviticus. So why are you going through like a paragraph of describing it again?
Exactly. Yeah, and I think there's a lot in there that we're like, why is this there? Well, it's important, and also it does these other things. And I believe in the law of maybe triple, quadruple reference, where everything is there for one reason that you're going to get the first 20 times you read it. But you start digging, and you know this just from your studies. You start digging, man. You're like, oh, and everyone who's read the word more than once has been this. Oh, it says that instead. Ah, uh, oh, well, that's a good comment, Pam. Thank you for putting that up there. No, I've got my thing on full screen. But the and on Pam's note, the and that's why I believe in sunset to sunset for day, not just from Genesis 1, but from parts of things like this, where the cloud, as Pam calls it, the cloud mass, it becomes something else at the sunset, and then it comes on the sunrise. And so, but there's lots of reasons for me to observe that way. But I wanted to talk about something very interesting that a lot of people probably haven't thought about, and this is just because I'm a nerd, and I'm always thinking about logistics. I took an assessment for job skills when I was 13, 14, and it came up the number one job I should be as a hotel manager. Number two is an army general, and that's probably why, because I can see all the moving pieces. Right? They didn't put in there that I should be a writer, but I can
It's
see all
like
the moving.
if the career doesn't work out as a hotel manager, maybe you could have an army general as your fallback position.
Which is my point exactly. So therefore, there are a lot of people who sided with Egypt, and there are different dynasties and different control mechanisms going in. And the geopolitical mechanisms didn't just stop when the Hebrew slaves went away and the entire Pharaoh army died in the Reed Sea or Red Sea or whatever we've come upon. However, how many mercenary tribes, how many bandits, how many vandals, how many people intent to destroy this group, this because they have all of Egypt's gold, basically. And how many people intent to destroy, just utterly decimate? How many of these mercenaries are waiting in ambush for a long time and then just give up and go home? How many people are like, okay, they're going to be here tonight, and they're wrong again? So if and we'll see that later, if he can bring the quail in by the spoonful, by the monthful, he can do the same thing to these guys. He can bring the crickets in, and he can bring the locusts in and destroy them. So I think there was probably a lot of hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait. But there was also something that we don't see, something we didn't know, that the Father, he knows what was happening. And that's all I got for 9.
Yeah, the Marine mentality of hurry up and wait. And I think about this often too, because they looted Egypt, right? So now you have, I mean, can you imagine that? I mean, I'm trying to think of what the scenario would be today if you have a group of people that straight up looted like the Vatican vault or whatever. They've got the treasures of something and they're just walking along. Now you've got the eye of all the different world powers out there, right? And then you have these scenarios where the unclean have to leave the camp. And it's like being on the outskirts of the camp um isn't doesn't sound very attractive to me. My I have letters from my third great grandfather. Well, I haven't read them in a long time, but I have copies of them. And he's riding in the Missouri. He was in the Missouri Cavalry during the Civil War, and that's a whole, of course, discussion about what was truly going on in the Civil War. But he would talk about how he would go on these night walks, and which was very dangerous to do because of the snipers out there. And but he was always okay. But I think about that, like getting picked off and that kind of thing. And clearly, Yah had a supernatural protection over this camp. And I actually wonder if this Shekinah glory, or this cloud, this pillar of fire that they saw, if the surrounding nations were able to see it or not. It maybe the situation I think about is kind of like, imagine if one person could see their guardian angel, and then other people cannot see the guardian angel, but they can't figure out why they're being like pushed away or something like that. I often wonder if the surrounding nations weren't able to see the glory of Yah, and that was just for Yashrael. I don't know. That's just a thought. So
let me tag on that real quick. So if the famous guy, the Chicago weatherman, pointing to the picture that Rob Skiber, one of his guys, took a picture of Chicago from across the lake. This is a mirage. Exactly. And maybe the cloud bent the actual sky, and light refracted away so that it looked just like a mirage, and like Israel actually wasn't there, or like they were in a small dip, and then suddenly, oh, it's just a sunrise mirage. Anyway, that's good point.
All right, so some of the things I want to talk about, the two Passovers. And for those of you who tuned into my Nazarene presentation I gave 2 weeks ago, the Nazarene Christianity versus the Millennial Kingdom, which I recommend everybody check out if you haven't. When I was researching that, one of the surprises that came was, aside from the Sabbath day, which the church fathers were all trying to push away, trying to keep people from keeping the Sabbath day. They called it, Judaizing, all this kind of stuff. There was a huge emphasis on the Passover. They weren't concerned about the other feast. They were concerned about, like, do not keep the Passover. They weren't talking about Sukkot. They weren't talking about, Yom Kippur and all that kind of stuff. And I was thinking, like, why the big emphasis on Passover? Well, we read that tonight, and I will point that out to you. But this is Constantine's letter. I'm not going to go through the whole thing for lack of time. Besides, I went through it in the video. But what Constantine wanted at Nicaea was to forcibly have all of the church keep the same Easter day, the same Easter Sunday. You cannot keep Passover anymore. He said, at the council, we also considered the issue of our holy day Easter, and it was determined by common consent that everyone everywhere should celebrate on the same day. And so you're asking, well, like, why? What is the big focus on this? He says, since we have cast aside their way of calculating, he's talking about the Jews, the date of the festival, we can ensure that future generations can celebrate this observance at the more accurate time. He says this, and in the first place, it seemed very unworthy for us to keep this most sacred feast following the custom of the Jews. All right. He says, therefore, have nothing in common with the most hostile people, the Jews. And now keep in mind, when these church fathers are talking about the Jews, they're not talking about the genetic Yahudim. They're talking about the Nazarene. They're talking about, they use interchangeably the Nazarene, called them Jews. Okay, these are people who are grafted into Yasharel. They're not genetic Jews, and they're actually keeping the Torah. They believe in Mashiach just as we do, and they're the ones being called the Jews. And says, let us, most honored brothers, withdraw ourselves from this detestable association. And this is one of the criticisms he threw in there. I found this kind of funny. I was laughing when I read this. He said, they constantly err in the utmost degree and will celebrate the feast of Passover a second time in the same year. He's saying they're so confused. They don't even know when to keep Passover because they can't agree. Like this, and I personally think he's referring to this chapter we just read, Numbers chapter 9. And I think that they really, like, they didn't get it, or he's just clearly playing on people's ignorance. And of course, And this is kind of interesting here. He said how Constantine said he had the whole church under his control except the Eastern Church. The Eastern Church was still not under his control. He's talking about Antioch. He's talking about Jerusalem. He's talking about that area. That was a highly concentrated Nazarene area that they wanted to control at that time, even in the 4th century. And I love how he ends his letter there. He says, I see that through our efforts to end the Passover, I see that through our efforts, divine power is frustrating Satan's cruelty. I just laughed at reading that Satan was actually frustrated at the fact that the commands were being done away with. So the question that is often asked is, when was the Passover for Yahushua HaMashiach? And also, if people buried Messiah, they are now unclean because they are burying a body. We see this played out in Numbers 9. What does this mean for them? All right, so I'm going to take you through this really quickly. Now, I am of the opinion that the Last Supper was the Passover meal on the date that he was keeping it. And we see right here in Book of Illuminators, it also goes by the Gospel Collidio, things like that. It says, on the first day of the festival, when lambs were being sacrificed, the Talmudim came to Yahusha and asked where the Pesach meal would be eaten. All right. Now, this is kind of interesting because you don't get this in the other Gospels. You're like, wait a second. Because the Gospels make clear that the day he was crucified on is when the Jews were preparing for the Passover meal. So you're like, wait a second. How are they preparing for the meal on the day before he's killed off? That doesn't make any sense. Now, the one thing this gives a little bit added information on it says, now the house belonged to Obed. Oh, he says here, go look for the guy carrying the water pitcher. That's really interesting. And this is one of the things that the Zadok people, the calendar, point out, that most likely this man was an Essene. Now, it doesn't prove he was an Essene, but it means most likely that maybe he wasn't married and maybe he had taken a vow. He doesn't have a woman to do it because that was considered woman's work, to go down to the well to get the water. We see that all through scripture, the women going down to the well. Well, this guy is going to get water at the well. All right. And it says here that his name was Obed, and he was the brother of Barnabas, the elder. Well, who's Barnabas? Barnabas traveled with Paul. Interesting. And according to recognitions of Clements, he is, or Clementine homilies, he's actually Matthias. He's the same. He's the one that replaced Judas or Yehuda Iscariot. And of course, that would be his brother. So this is the brother of Matthias / Barnabas. So it's at his house. So that's interesting. That's an interesting connection right there. Now he says this he says, after he had taken his place at the table and all were seated, Yahusha said, I have very much wanted to keep this Passover with you because it is the last before my ordeal. And I tell you, I will not share another with you until my purpose is fulfilled. Now in the other Gospels, it says that he will not drink the wine again until his purpose is fulfilled. So this is where, it comes in. If he took a Nazirite vow, did he end the vow at this point? Did he just start a vow? That's one of the things I was asking Pauly about. But I also find this really interesting because when we talk about, was it 1 year or 3 year ministry, this verse right here seems to play into the possibility that it was 1 year. Now, this is just something I'm thinking through. I might put a presentation. I'm probably far away from doing that, but I'm trying to get all the evidence I can for a 1 year or 3 year. This one plays off like it's a 1 year. Like he hasn't had Passover with his disciples before. He's like, I really wanted to keep Passover with you because I'm about to have my ordeal. All right. So let's keep reading. And it says, next chapter, it was now for many Passover Eve. Wait, what? Because I thought he just kept Passover. But it says for many others, it's Passover Eve. Not all keeping it at the same time, for this was in dispute. Well, that's interesting. Therefore, many who could have spoken for Yahusha, being righteous men, went to make their preparations for the festival. So there were many followers of Mashiach who weren't even on the same calendar as him. So we need to remember that as we're arguing, that we all come in and argue over which calendar to keep, that many righteous men, they weren't even following the right one while he was on the earth. He's not even on the earth right now, to show us. And we see again, skipping another 30 or 40 verses, then one of the Parashim stood up and said, many could speak for this just man, but have decided their duty lies elsewhere. Well, this is one of the Pharisees that's trying to put him to death. And he's saying, like, they're preparing for the meal. So they're not going to speak up. And then
Hey,
Pilate says, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt. A buddy of mine sent me a podcast. Who's this? Avi Ben Mordecai, Real Israel Talk Radio. That was a podcast, and he was going on about the Second Temple period Judaism, even before that, like back to Malachi. There were argument upon argument upon argument about the calendar, and I just wanted to verify what you got there. This is a learned scholar saying that there have been arguments about the calendar since this since Zerubbabel's temple. So it's not a new thing that people just can't figure it out.
So, and then, so jumping ahead, verse 79, we see Pilate says, you are a perverse race, over concerned with unworldly things and ensnaring yourselves in your own net of goodness. You cannot even agree on the dates of your own festivals or the nature of your Elohim. So Pilate is saying that right there. Okay, so that being said, I'm of the opinion that Yahusha kept Passover on one day. For whatever reason, the Pharisees, where we get rabbinical Judaism today, we're keeping on the next day. And that's, the question we can all ask, what was going on there? What calendar was Yahusha keeping? What calendar were they keeping? And there's that. But that leads to the next point. We see right here an illustration of Nicodemus, Yosef, and the two women carrying Mashiach. And now I am of the opinion, I'm not of the opinion. I would put all my bets on the fact that the women, the three Marys, had already kept Passover with them the day before. They would have probably been there at the Last Supper. Nicodemus, however, he's kind of up for grabs. I don't really know. And what about Yosef of Ramah, of Joseph of Arimathea? Had he kept Passover yet? Now, if they had not, if they are on the calendar of the Pharisees, Nicodemus particularly probably was, which means he could not have kept that Passover. He would have been unclean. He buried a body. He couldn't keep it. What does that mean for him? We see here, after this, Yosef of Ramah being a disciple of Yahusha. Well, you guys know this passage. I don't need to go all through this. You see here, preparing his body, blah, blah, blah. They were doing it before sunset. We're going on to the feast of the of Passover. Of course, for Yahusha, it means on the first day of unleavened bread, a high Sabbath day, he would have been crucified. And for everyone else, the next day was a high Sabbath day that they were preparing for. Well, I propose to you the idea that when Yahushua HaMashiach resurrected from the dead, that he very well may have celebrated Passover again. He might have. He said he wouldn't celebrate, he wouldn't drink wine again until he came in his kingdom. But with those who had second Passover, Nicodemus probably would have had second Passover because he couldn't keep the first. And so I think it's kind of an exciting thought to just maybe possibly a resurrected Messiah had Passover again. I mean, what was stopping him? What was stopping him from having second Passover with those who couldn't keep it the first time? Something to think about.
So if they had the first Passover and then they handled the dead body, or what? I guess that wouldn't work out, would it? So would he celebrate the second Passover?
Right. So
Sorry.
If they are on the calendar of the Yahudim,
right,
that states that Yahushua was crucified in the hours leading up to Passover, they could not keep the Passover. Yeah, they would be unclean. So
they'd be unclean. So they have to wait a month to celebrate the second Passover. So that's when. That's really interesting. Very, very interesting. I had never put that together before.
Yeah, and he was, of course, you would start counting up the 50 days, but he had a 40-day king ministry on the earth as resurrected, right? Afterwards, so that would have lined up with the second Passover event that he could have kept with people. Now,
what if, and hear me out. What if his ascension into heaven was the second Passover date?
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, because then he would be.
I guess I would have to get the calculator out for that.
Don't make me do it. Yeah. Anyway, wow, that's a mind blow right there.
So one of the questions that comes up, I won't say a lot, but it doesn't for me because one of my buddies, Dave, he he really questions this a lot. I'm not putting him on the spot. I love Dave a lot, but we talked about this. Should you actually keep first Passover? Now, the reason being is that when we read Numbers 9, it says if you're on travel, travel from what? Well, you're not able to go to the temple. Well, we don't have a temple, so what does that mean? Should you be keeping first Passover or second Passover? And he keeps second Passover. I think he's tried some first Passovers, but I think mostly he settles on second Passover. Now, I don't know if I'm going to go through all these passages. You guys know this. Now, you've probably, for those of you who've been following me maybe 4 or 5 years, you saw that I really struggled for a time, especially when I was really going against Paul and investigating that. And Paul is the one where we get a lot of the temple, our bodies, the temple quotes. It's almost purely, I shouldn't say it's purely Pauline theology, because Yahushua HaMashiach explicitly states that his body is a temple. I've shown quotes here in Ezekiel where it calls little congregations, little sanctuaries, implying that. We see in Revelation where it talks about plucking up the menorah from the church that is not being obedient, and so they are a temple. So we see a lot of that. Of course, Yahushua says that you destroy this temple, and his body, referring to his body, he'll resurrect in 3 days. He'll rebuild it in 3 days. We see Kepha talking about how we're living stones. We have all this kind of stuff, right? And I had to kind of build up this theology again. And so my opinion on this, when just everyone out there, everybody needs to search scripture for themselves. When we come up to this issue of, do you keep first or second Passover, based on the fact that we have no temple to go to, we are not in the land, we are in the diaspora, should we keep the first or second? I propose to you that our body is a temple, and that we keep the first. All right. But that's that's what I propose to you. So everyone needs to figure that out for yourself. Pauly, you sound like you want to say something.
Yes. Did you get the verses where if we do not praise him, even the rocks themselves will cry out? And also John's revelation of we will receive a white stone with our name on it. And also when Yeshua told Kepha, you are a pebble, upon this boulder will I build my church. Yeah. Ecclesia. So yeah, there's so much in there. And and just for the YouTube audience, when he said anti-Paul, he didn't mean anti-Pauly. He meant Shaul.
Yeah, I was never anti-Pauly. I was never anti-Pauly, but I was anti-Paul.
But no,
which made Pauly very upset.
Well, I was named after the guy, so that's my parents' problem. But no, I chose the moniker Pauly because Paul means humble, and Pauly means little and humble, and so I wanted to be more humble than him.
Now, keep in mind, my name means Christmas. So.
Well, you are the first Noel that I know. L.
I almost called this Pauly, for everyone out there. Pauly was I was sitting in a old house in Ireland, like an old house for hobbits. It looked like Hobbiton type house. And I was trying to figure out the name, what became the website, The Unexpected Cosmology. I actually kept throwing titles past Pauly. So he was there for that. But one of those, Pauly, I don't know if I ever told you this, but one of those I almost thought about going with was The Last Noel. So it was either it was either The Unexpected Cosmology or The Last Noel, but it ended not being The Last Noel. So.
I mean, that's actually interesting. I was renovating an old house when I took that call from you. I was scraping baseboards, and it was at the time, and I think we are all in agreement. Things have gone better than just a tribute to Patricia Steer or a travel blog, because in my heart, I've known you 10 years now, and I've grown with you. We're not parallel, because I believe different things than you do in a lot of ways, but at the same time, our spirits are intertwined because of our love for one another. It's what John said. How do you know? How do you know they're of me? Well, we love one another. So, and it's a blessing. It has been a blessing to know you and to see your growth and struggles, and more growth after the struggles this whole time. So anyway, back to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Pauly. It was quite the bro moment there. So if there's time, guys, I'll go through all these. You can kind of see them on the screen. I have a lot of scripture, but you guys all know the scripture verses for our body is a temple. I don't need to introduce you guys to that. And I just bring this up to say that in the argument of whether we should keep first, second Passover, I'm going with the fact we can keep the first. All right. Now, in my Mark of the Beast or the Mark of Yah ever developing argument, one of the things that the fig tree generation brought up last week was really interesting. They actually they were quoting from this Torah portion we went through tonight, Numbers chapter 9, in which they said, well, yeah, I mean, the Mark of the Beast is more than just an alternative to Sabbath. And for those of you who have not heard this argument before, I do have a whole video, a whole paper on this. And it's the idea that, if you take the Mark of the Beast, you can buy or sell. But if you take the Mark of Yah, you can't buy or sell. And then, of course, the Mark of the Yah is the Sabbath day. And so you could see that a spiritual mark, more and more people are waking up to this idea. It seems like the Mark of the Beast is a spiritual mark. They can't really put a finger on it. They're like, what is this spiritual mark? Well, this spiritual mark is, the guy's keeping the Sabbath day. It's keeping the Sabbath day. We want the Mark of Yah. That's keeping it. And if you decide not to keep the Sabbath day, you could say that is taking the Mark of the Beast. People all the time, they're like, we need to warn everybody about don't take the mark. And I say the same thing. Yes, do not take the mark. But then you tell them to keep the Sabbath day, keep the fourth commandment. They're like, oh, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. But I'm not deceived. But I'm not going to do that. Well, let's add to this here, because we see that in Numbers, it says, but the man who is clean and exists not on a distant pathway and leaves off from fashioning the Passover. So remember now, if you're away on your journey or you're unclean, you keep the second. But assuming you're clean, and you have to keep the second. It's not an optional. Well, I cannot keep the first, so the second is optional. It's like no. But assuming you're clean and you're near the temple and you can bring the lamb, and you don't keep it, that soul shall be cut off from his people. For he did not draw near with the offering of Yahweh at his appointed time. That man shall carry his calamity, fault, his penalty is sin. Now, I want to make clear to everybody out there, I'm not the judge, all right? I'm just reading scripture to you guys. I don't want to make this politically correct. I don't want to give you false hope. I'm just reading what it says. And thank Yah that I'm not the judge. Yah is the judge of every heart. He will judge me. He will judge others. I'm not judging anyone else. But I say constantly that the Torah should be a transformative document, something we read, and it is a gnosis that we ourselves experience. We want that circumcised heart, and we want to read this and go, how can I change my life to be obedient to the Father, right? True worship is obedience, not disobedience. And we need to read this and go, wow, this is serious. We need to keep the Passover. Guys, if you have not kept Passover, keep Passover. It's coming around next year. Keep the Passover. And I think that when it's talking about you will be cut off, see what happens is people are like, well, I'm not cut off, right? I gave this example a couple weeks ago, or actually last week, when the cup of jealousy is given to the woman, and it says that if she is adulterous, then the child will die, and if not, the child will live. And this is Yah, the one judging this heart, nobody else. And what happens is that I could go out and commit adultery, and I'd wake up the next morning and go, wow, nothing happens. I guess I'm good. I guess Yah's okay with that. Nothing's going to happen. I'm going to keep doing it, right? It's like, no. It's going to catch up to you. And then you're going to hit that judgment day, and you will be judged for it. And as I proposed, the idea of the baby either dying or living is a reference to our own resurrection. The Father will either resurrect us from dead or not, based on whether we pass the cup of jealousy test. And I propose the same thing with this. For those who are not keeping the Sabbath day, according to Scripture, what it says, not what Noel says, according to what Scripture says, they will be cut off. So, again, I'm not the judge of anyone's heart. Yah judge that. Thank Yah for that. Just, guys, take this seriously, all right? Don't take the mark. Don't take the mark of the beast. Take the mark of Yah. And one of the marks of Yah is the Passover. It's more important to him than all the other feasts. And this is why I brought up Constantine earlier, that Constantine and the church fathers were so adamant. Every single time it seems like there's something where it says, this is the mark of Yah, and you better keep it or you'll be cut off. Those are the only ones they were attacking. They were going over, we need to change the Sabbath day. We need to get rid of Passover. and they would have you fast 40 days before, of course, weeping for Tammuz, all that kind of stuff. But guys, if you're fasting 40 days before Easter, it means that most of the time Passover falls before Easter. It means you're not having the Passover lamb. It means you're not having unleavened bread. That was the whole scheme. That was it. They wanted to starve you out of being obedient. All right. Let's see what else I have.
I
Go
don't
ahead,
know.
Pauly.
Is there anything that you found why it's just fish for those guys? Like, I don't get it. Like, hey, no Passover for you, but you can have some fish. I don't get it. What's the deal with that? I don't know. What is there anything with it, or is it just ridiculous?
Well, I think that I don't know. But it's very clear that they didn't want him having unleavened bread. They didn't want to have the Passover lamb. So
they can have a fish sandwich, so they can eat all the leaven they want.
And I couldn't figure this out when I was going through the Nazarene passages, the research. I'm like, why are they making such a big deal about Passover? Why not make it, like I said, Yom Teruah or Yom Kippur or Sukkot? Why not make a deal about those?
But or the new moon festivals. Yeah. I mean, like, the new moon festival is like, oh, no. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead, man.
Well, yeah, but Yah doesn't say you're going to be cut off if you don't keep Yom Teruah. He says you're going to be cut off if you don't keep Passover. So it's interesting. Every single time where you see these severe consequences, those are the ones that they attacked, and they didn't want people to keep them. And one more time to point this out here. Let's see, what passage am I looking at? This comes from Ephesians 2. Okay, so here's Paul, and this is what Paul is one of those. I say this time again. I get it why people are so offended by Paul. Why Christians are like, oh, he advocated lawlessness, and then the Torah people are like, yeah, he advocated lawlessness. Let's kick him out, and he didn't pass the. I had a guy just today on YouTube. He writes me a comment. He's like, have you even tried to put Paul up to the Deuteronomy 13 test? I'm like, actually, yes, I have. But he speaks in such a way that you kind of. Like, okay, whatever. Let's just see what he says here, because I think he's totally saying, like, keep the Passover. So, for we are his workmanship, created in Mashiach Yahusha unto good works. So, the purpose of our being a new creation is, what is good works? Good works, of course, of being obedient, worshiping him through the commands, which Allah Hayam hath before ordained that we should walk in them. What is walking? Walking in the way. There's only one way. There's only one straight and narrow. Wherefore remember that ye being in time past goyim in the flesh, who are called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh made by hands. Immediately right now there's people like, see, he did away with circumcision. That at that time ye were without Mashiach, when you were a goyim. You're being grafted in now to Yasharel. He says this right here, being aliens from the commonwealth of Yasharel, but no longer. If you are in Mashiach, if you're a new creation, you are in the commonwealth of Yasharel. You are now with Mashiach rather than without. And strangers from the covenants of promise, having no hope, and without Allah Hayam in the world. But now in Mashiach Yahusha, ye who were sometimes were far off, are brought near by the blood of Mashiach. And I actually think that we're seeing a reference to Passover there. So you were far off, but now you have to come near, right? That's Passover is one of the occasions when you have to present, as a man, you have to present yourself to Yahuwah. You have to come near to him. And I'm going to be quoting from another passage tonight from Paul, where he straight up identifies Yahushua HaMashiach as the same entity in the wilderness that you had to come near to.
Can I make an observation?
Please do.
I've never heard you pound the desk before when you're preaching. And
I'm passionate tonight.
I can say with honesty that you have researched Ephesians 6 for real, bro. You go. I'm on the front pew going hallelujah, hallelujah, waving the napkin. Go ahead, man.
Yeah. Paul's really one of those. And again, I say this time and again, like, for those of you listening and you're like, Paul, you know what? If you feel that Paul does not pass the Deuteronomy 13 test, then that is your right to say, you know what, I don't have to listen to his words. I totally get it. I have put him up to the burner, and I believe that he was Torah observant, and I think he is all part of the test. And it's one of those things that, like, some people see it, some people don't.
Okay. Sorry, real quick. In chat just moments ago, a fellow named Brother Enos was talking, and I just mentioned that I came to Torah by listening to the book of Romans 50 times as I was a paper delivery guy. And I recall the moment that you said it to me or I said it to you. I said, isn't it just a guy writing letters? And so the shifting of the paradigm was like, Scripture, scriptural, scripture, scriptural, scripture, scriptural. But like, so in my mind, yeah, apostle, prophet, evangelist, pastor, teacher. He was an apostle. Sure, go for it. So that's just me. I don't know where anybody else is at, but he helped me find obedience. And so it's just a dude helping me find obedience. I'm all for that dude. You go, boy. And a lot of stuff he says is highfalutin. And Peter said, you know, hey, you better beware. You don't take the stuff that Paul says and take it out of context, because a lot of people do, i.e., e.g., Constantine.
So, thank you, Pauly. Yeah, I want to get I had Lou White on last night, and I was laughing. I didn't know he had a Constantine wanted poster. I totally want to get that poster. So this is, of course, a review for those of you who saw my Nazarene presentation, the Quarto Deciman controversy, which Irenaeus, am I pronouncing that right? Irenaeus jumped into. Now, the interesting thing is with this is that the Pope of Rome was trying to get Christians everywhere to stop celebrating Passover. It was a Jewish thing. They wanted everyone to do Easter. And Victor I of Rome, he was going to toss Polycrates out of the church. Now, the problem was that Polycrates was the leader of the Eastern Church. And as I have shown in my research, that the Eastern Church were mostly Nazarene. Rome and Alexandria and Egypt had not yet controlled the Eastern Church, and they were trying desperately to. So they thought, well, if we can throw out the leader of the Eastern Church, we can make an example of him and others will fall. It's like, well, how are you actually going to do that if you have support from his church members? I can only assume that they had a lot of plants in those churches, which is a scary thought. Anyways, Irenaeus jumps in because it's kind of, now he's some dude in Gaul. He's in France. He's way outside of the Roman Empire, but he throws his hat into the ring. Why? Because you find out that Polycarp, who he was a disciple of, was a Nazarene. He kept Passover. He kept the Sabbath day. So that was a great confirmation to read that. And in this letter that Polycrates wrote, he showed, all these different people, too many to count, he said, but way too many to count. But Polycarp is mentioned there, as well as he direct line from Philip and his daughters and stuff, and Yochanan. They all kept Passover, which is kind of like a no-duh. It's a no-brainer in Sabbath day. So something to look at. All right, let's go to chapter 10. And I can't believe we're running out of time here tonight. Pauly, do you have any thoughts before we jump into this? Okay, well, let's go right into it.
No,
and
it's 2 hours past my bedtime. That's okay. Go ahead. I'm with you.
And Yahuwah, the ever-living, set words in order toward Al-Mashahah to declare, fashion for yourself 2 silver trumpets. From turned work you shall fashion them, and they will exist to you for calling out Makara'ah, the gathered assembly, and for breaking the encampment. When Thuku'ah are blown among them, then they shall assemble toward you, all the gathered assembly, toward the entrance of the tent of meeting. And conditionally, should one Thuku'ah be blown, then shall assemble the lifted up chiefs, the heads of the thousands of Yasharel. But should you blow a Thuku'ah, then the encampment inclined eastward shall set out. But should you blow a Thuku'ah a second time, then the camps inclined southward shall set out. Thuku'ah they shall blow for the breaking of camp. But when the congregation shall be called together, you shall Thuku'ah and not Thura'ahu. And the sons of Aaron, the priest, shall, you're killing me, Pamela, Thuku'ahu with the trumpets. And they shall exist to you for a statute to a time of long duration, for as far as the eye can see or perceive, circling throughout your generations. And if you enter into fighting into your land against an adversary who causes narrowness or distress, one oppressing you, then you shall blow an alarm with the straight silver trumpets, and you shall be remembered to the face of Yahuwah, your Allah. That's a really exciting thought, to blow in a trumpet and to be heard from heaven. And you will be preserved from your haters. I like that line there. And you'll be preserved from your haters. They had haters back then, apparently, too, just like today. And in the day of your joyful banquets, your gladness, and in your appointed times, in your Rosh Kadash, you shall thuku on the straight silver trumpets over your ascending offerings and over the sacrifices of your shalom, and you shall exist unto you for remembrance to the face of your Allahah, Allahaya. I am Yahweh your Allahaya. And he existed in the second year, in the second Kadash, in the 20th of the Kadash. The cloud mass ascended from over the Mashkin dwelling place of the revealed precepts. This is the point, Pauly, where a child wakes up and tells her mom and dad the cloud is gone. And the sons of Yasharel set forth, breaking their camps from the wilderness of Sinaia. And the cloud mass settled down to dwell in the wilderness of Paran. And they first broke camp upon the mouth of Yehovah the ever-living by the hand of Meshahah. And leading out the large military standard from the camp of the sons of Yehuda, or Yahuda, in the first position, according to their armies, and over his host was Nakashahun, son of Amminadab. And over the host of the tribe of the sons of Yeshachar was Nathaniel, son of Sa'ar. And over the host of the tribe of the sons of Zebulun was Eliab, son of Chalaun. And the Mashkin dwelling place was brought down, and the sons of Gershon and the sons of Moriah lifted up the Mashkin dwelling place. And leading up the large military standard from the camp of Reuben, according to their armies, and over their host was Alisar, son of Shadam Yahar, and over the host of the tribe of the sons of Shamaon was, and that would be Simon, was Shalamah Yahal, son of Saraya Shadaya. And over the host of the tribe of Gad was, I love how Gad and Dan are the same in every language. And over the host of the tribe of Gad was Elisaph, son of Deuel, and setting forward the Kuhathuyam bore up the Makadash, and he has raised up the Mashkin dwelling place until they came. And leading up the large military standard from the camp of Ephraim, according to their armies and over their host, was Alaya Shamaya, son of Amayahad. And over the host of the tribe of the sons of Menusha, or Manasseh, was Gamaliel, son of Fadaha Sar. And leading out the large military standard from the camp of the sons of Dan, bringing up the rear of all the camps of their armies, and over his host was Amaya Shadiah. And over the host of the tribe of the sons of Asher was Fagai Yaal, son of Akron. And over the host of the tribe of the sons of Naphtali was Aka Yarai, son of Ayanun. These are those setting forth of the sons of Yasharel when they broke camp. And Meshahah declared into, it would be Hobab, or in this case, I guess, Chabab, son of Reuel, the Midianite, Meshahah's father-in-law. So this is, it looks like it is his, Moses's or Meshahah's brother-in-law, son of his father-in-law. We are setting forth toward the standing place, which Yahweh the ever-living said will give to you. Walk with us, and we will do well for you. For Yahweh the ever-living has set a word in order, an excellent pleasing plan toward Yasharel. But he said toward him, I will not walk, but conditionally toward my own Arat and toward my own family will I walk. And he declared, do not forsake us, for upon this matter you have acquired knowledge of his camping in the wilderness, and you will exist to us for eyes. And he will exist if you walk together with us. Yes, he will exist the goodness which Yahweh the ever-living will rightly with us. Then the same doing well will we do unto you. And he broke camp, journeying 3 days from the mount of Yahweh, and the ark of the covenant of Yahweh the ever-living was lifted up before their faces, a path of 3 days, to spy out for them a place of rest. And the cloud mass of Yahweh the ever-living was over them for days, and they're pulling up stakes out of the camp. And he existed when the ark set forward, the Meshahah declared, arise, Yahweh, dash into pieces your enemies, and your haters shall flee from your face. And upon resting, he said, return, Yahweh, unto the myriad thousands of Yasharel. All right, Pauly, handing over to you for first commentary.
Oh, thank you.
You just turned off your mic.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
I was poking Mike. He probably didn't like that. So here we go. I'm looking at, and Pam's probably going to tell me I'm doing it all wrong. But the way Yesu, the word they departed, and I'm looking at that Hobab, Chabad, shish kebab dude, and he's like, you know what? I don't like you guys. I'm gonna go back to Midian. You know, and so I'm like, what? What do you mean? So, and it actually doesn't tell us did he go or did he stay? Should I go or should I stay? If they stay, there will be trouble. Anyway, but so I'm like, I don't know because Numbers 10:33 says the same tense way Yisu, and it doesn't actually say anything about a Chabad or Hobab going or staying. I'm thinking he left and he just took off because Numbers 31 says that the Midianites were, hey, you know, they were ordered that they would be put to the Haram. Now, Haram is the word devoted to destruction. So Midian, we know Midian is in the lineage of Abram. And so it's like, what's going on? Why is Midian? Well, here's what's going on. You see, remember that guy Hobab? Well, he did this to us. So maybe if Hobab stayed, all of Midian would have been not cursed. So that's just one of those things. And I did have something else on the tribe of Dan. Now we know the tribe of Dan is not listed in Revelation 7. And I don't know why they're last. You know, they're always last going on. Yeah, Pam just said, I hope you went. I sure do too. And maybe Hobab's curse for not going, if he didn't go, wasn't upon all Midian, or maybe he was saved because we're going to find out and I know we have to hurry. No, I don't. We're running over. Chapters 11 and 12 that there's more rebukes coming. And I really think that he went. So to Dan, Revelation 7 says that the two half tribes, Ephraim and Manasseh, they get the blessing. Dan's not mentioned, which is sad because Dan, they were in the northern kingdom. The city of Dan had the golden calf Baal, and they became a pleasure center to this false god. They were cursed upon curse, and well, I think the very reason, because at the very beginning, they rejected their promised land. They had a promised land. Go to that promised land. They're like, nah, we're going to go over there. So, okay, go away, Dan. Bye. They take off, and they're eventually, we don't know what happened to that tribe. Now, a lot of people say they're the two of the Anna that became part of the Fae of Great Britain. Sure, that's fanciful. More probably is that they joined the Phoenicians. They founded Carthage, who became like the Empire of Rome's and the Republic of Rome's worst real enemy. Carthage did. They were maybe formed with the Sea Peoples, who were the Phoenicians. Sorry, my kitten's jumping around the house. So Dan, they betrayed, exactly. So when you betray Yah, you get left out of the book of Revelation. Oh no, that's pitiful. So yeah, that's I think that's all the notes I have on 10. But I did find it interesting that Dan was supposed to bring up the rear guard, and in the end they failed. And in this instance, the last were last, and not the first last and last first, but the last became last. So was it a prophecy? I don't know, but it was pretty deeply interesting to me to try to research out what happened to Dan. And I've been looking at that my whole life. Didn't find any help here.
Yeah, I had mentioned, I think a couple weeks ago, that I wondered if the way that the camps actually were set up around the tabernacle. Of course, the tabernacle is in the middle. The Levites are in the core center, and then the different camps spread out. If there's actually some way that actually worked out prophetically in the greater world around us, even today, I don't really know. I'm going to skip any notes I have on that, just because 11 and 12 is. Well, here's what I'm going to do, Pauly. I'm going to just finish reading 11 and 12, get it done, and then we'll just go through the notes, okay? Because 12 is only a half chapter. So we'll get right into it.
Real quick, you did so good on chapter 10 on those pronunciations. I actually wondered about this yesterday. How is he going to do tonight? Hey, A+. All right.
Thank you. Getting better every week, I hope. Though when Brahmology came on 2 weeks ago, that was Dan. His name is Dan. He talked to me afterwards. He's like, dude, like he's he's like, there's no way he could do that. So that was a tough week. All right. And the people complained, what, no surprise here. And the people complained, lamenting like mourners, and existed calamitous, hurtful in the ears of Yahweh the ever-living. And Yahweh heard and responded. His anger kindled, and the fire of Yahweh began to consume among them and devoured the extremities of the encampment. And the people ran together, crying out unto Meshahah. And Meshahah interceded unto Yahweh the ever-living. And the fire subsided, and he called out the name of the standing place. It is Thuba Araha. Let me just look at what she put here for the notes. It means the burning place. Okay. The burning place, because the fire of Yahweh burned among them. And the mixed collection which was among them turned aside, desiring. And in addition, the sons of Yasharel also turned themselves aside, bewailing, and declared, who will give us flesh to eat? We remember the flesh which we ate in Matzarim free of charge. No, they didn't. The cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic. These are the people who, like, had to make bricks without straw. So just keep that in mind, everybody. And now our nefash is dried up, empty of all except this man toward our eyes. And the man, talking about the manna, and the man was like coriander seed. And the people ran quickly and gathered up and crushed it small in hand mills, or perhaps pounded it in a mortar and cooked it in pots and fashioned cakes of it. And the taste was like the taste of juicy sweet oil cake. And when the dew fell down upon the encampment, Haman fell upon him, or the manna fell upon him. And Meshahah heard and answered the people, bewailing, mourning for their families, each man at the entrance of his tent. That's not good. These people are now rejecting the manna. And the anger of Yahweh the ever-living burned exceedingly. And in the eyes of Meshahah, this was not nauseous, hurtful, a cause of trembling. And Meshahah declared toward Yahweh the ever-living, for what reason have you done evil toward your servant? Have I not attained favor in your eyes? For you have placed all the burden of this people upon me. Have I conceived all the people? Conditionally, have I brought them forth? Even if you should declare unto me, lift them up in your bosom, like that which a supportive father does, the suckling, carrying them toward the ground which I swore an oath unto their fathers. From where is their flesh enough to give to all this people? For they weep and mourn over me to say, give to us flesh, and we shall eat. I am not able of myself alone to lift up all this people, for even a part of them is too heavy a weight. Therefore, conditionally, in this manner shall you fashion to me. Kill me, kill, I beseech you. I almost wonder if he's just like, just kill me, Lord. I don't know if he's interceding, like kill me in their place, or just take my life. I'm just over this. I beseech you, if I have attained favor in your eyes, so that I shall not observe my misfortune. And Yahweh the ever-living declared toward Al-Meshahah, gather to me 70 men, bearded ones of Yasharel, which you have known them, old ones of the people, scribes, magistrates, and you shall take them toward the tent of meeting, and you will station them there with you. And I will descend to set words in order with you. There I will take away from part of the Ruach which is upon you, and will lift and place over them. And with you they will lift up the burden of the people, and you will not lift her alone. And toward the people you will declare, you will set yourselves apart for the time following, and they shall eat flesh. For what have they mourned and wailed in the ears of Yahweh the ever-living, to declare, who will give us flesh? For it was excellent unto us in Mitzrayim. And Yahweh has given to them flesh, and they will eat. Not 1 day will you eat, and not 2 days will you eat, and not 5 days will you eat, and not 10 days will you eat, and not 20, but until a month of days, until it will come forth from their nose, and will exist to them a loathing of account of it, because they have despised Yahweh the ever-living. That's not good. Which is in their midst. And they have mourned, wept, and lamented to his face, to declare, for what reason? For this we did go forth from Mitzrayim. And Meshahah declared, 600,000 footmen of the people in whose midst I am. And you have declared, I will give to them flesh, and they will eat a month of days. Will he slaughter the flocks and herds and attain flesh for them? Or conditionally, will he collect all the fish in the sea, that enough be attained for them? And Yahweh the ever-living set words in order toward Meshahah. Has the hand of Yahweh been cut off? At this time, you will observe whether my purpose plan has been called out to you or not. And Mashahah went forth and set forth words toward the people, the purpose plan of Yahweh the ever-living. And he collected 70 men from the people, and he stationed them in a circuit round about the tent. And he descended, Yahweh, in the cloud mass, and he set words in order toward him. And he took away from part of Ha Ruach, which was upon him, and he had gifted upon the 70 the bearded men. And Ha Ruach existed, settling down over them. And they prophesied, and they did not cease. And 2 men remained in the encampment, the one whose name was Aladad, and the second was named Meadad. And Ha Ruach, she rested over them. And they were among the written, but he went not forth, and they did prophesy in the encampment. And the boy ran, and he proclaimed conspicuously in the sight of all unto Mashahah, and he declared, Aladad and Meadad are prophesying in the encampment. And Yahusha, son of Nun, this would be Joshua or Yahushua, a youth ministering unto Mashahah, answered solemnly in a loud voice, Adenuya, restrain them. And Mashahah declared unto him, behold, you are jealous for me. But oh, if only all the people of Yahweh were prophets, and that Yahweh the ever-living would gift his Ruach upon them. And Mashahah gathered toward the encampment, he and the bearded ones of Yasharel. And Ruach was sent out from Yahweh and caused to pass through quails out of the sea. And he spread abroad over the encampment like a day's journey here and a day's journey there, and a circuit round about the encampment, and like 2 amaha upon the face of Ha'aratz. And the people rose up all the day and all the night and all the day following, and they collected him the quail, he who had little gathered 10 chama rayam. This would be, the word is translated Homer, from modern Israeli Hebrew, and it means a heap or a mound. And they spread them out in a circuit round about the encampment. The flesh was still going round between their teeth. So it's like they're eating this meat before he had yet cut off. And the anger of Yahweh the ever-living burned against the people. And Yahweh struck against the people, an exceedingly forceful striking. And he called out the name of that standing place, the graves of lust. For there he buried the people who turned aside to desire evil ones. From the graves of lust, the people removed camp to Chatzah Ra'uth, and they existed in Chatzah Ra'uth. I said I was going to read through 12, but let's just go ahead and break. This is a good place, Pauly. So let's hand it over to you first.
Well, while you were reading, my cat and I had some 11s. I've got on my notes Eldad and Medad, so I'm just going to go from that because I can't remember what you said. Eldad and Medad. These guys are like, wow. I don't know what they're saying. What were they saying? It wasn't written down. We don't know. So it's probably very, very pertinent, very, very good, very, very helpful for the people who were there to hear it. And Yeshua, he's a disciple. He's a helper. He changing out Moses' bath water. He's making sure his sandals are tight and have laces. He's watching the 70 guys. He's in it, right? He's the assistant to the guy, and he's like, whoa. Now, reminiscent of James and John, should we call down fire from heaven? And Yahushua, which is funny that this is his name. He's like, no, don't worry about it. And so Moshe is like really, really, it's a very teachable moment. And I think a lot of people miss that when we are at fathers or cat fathers or whatever. When we have something going and we see the bigger picture, the people who are not in the know, like they've been either segmented down or that they don't have all the intel, right? Or they don't have the ruach coming and talking to them face to face. They're like, they just see what's going on in front of them. And for us as a learning experience, when we're younger or less knowledgeable, we're in that place and we remember when we're up here. Oh yeah, I used to be like that. I struck down an Egyptian guy and killed him and buried him in the sand. Oh, that was a bad day for me. That was 48 years ago, whatever. So yeah, it was very, very teachable moment. And I think for those of us who have people under us, or those who are under people, which is probably all of it, it's a very teachable moment. Remember the time that you were in the spot where the person you're chastising is now. Don't, as the word says, don't despise the day of small beginnings. And as Esther says, who knows, but you came into a place for such a time as this. So I think both Moses and Moshe and Yeshua were in that place. And it's interesting, as Moses progresses on, Yeshua takes his place, and Moses' bones eventually make it into the promised land. And that's, I think that's all I have for that one. There's a lot to get into, but for me, that was the most teachable moment. I think each chapter does a lot, and it does different things. And I think this one is more of a life lesson, because we have the relatives rebuked in the last chapter. We have the disciple rebuked in this chapter, and as we're going to find out, we have the direct family members rebuked in the next chapter. And it's all about, if you really want to look at those three chapters together in a leadership style, you need to connect with, you need to command, and you need to always have a relationship that has compassion with each and every one of the people you're connected to in your own business or ministry or whatever it is, your family. Every single one you deal with in a different way, though. So one person you can say this to and it will go far. The other person, if you say that to, it will hit a wall and it won't go far at all. So very, very teachable, very, very lessons to be learned. And I'm sure someone out there is going to write a book on these three types of leadership styles and the people you devote to. That's what I got, but that's just how I view things, right? From the hotel manager, army general guy.
Thank you, Pauly. So now we see here one of the passages here that I read. And when the dew fell upon the encampment, or when the dew fell upon the camp in the night, the manna fell upon it. All right. So it's a connection there between the dew and the manna. Well, look what we read in Micah. Now, this is referring to the final kind of conquest of entering what we would call the millennial kingdom. And it says, and the remnant of Yaakov shall be in the midst of many people. So the remnant, this is Yasharel. The people are being grafted into Yasharel all over the world. And it says, as a dew from Yahuwah. That seems to be a almost like a reference here to Numbers. What were we on? Chapter 11. As the showers upon the grass that tarries not for man, nor waits for the sons of men. And the remnant of Yaakov shall be among the goyim in the midst of many people, as a lion among the beasts of the forest, as a young lion among the flocks of the sheep, who, if he go through, both treads down and tears in pieces, and none can deliver. Thine hand shall be lifted up upon thine adversaries, and all thy enemies shall be cut off. And this is talking about the same time period where I believe that the war scroll, the sons of the light against the sons of darkness, is commenting upon entering into the physical kingdom, which, you could see that presentation I gave this last Tuesday. I think that's a nice complementary passage there. Now, murmuring in the camps. We see that first, it happens in the extremities of the encampment, which is really interesting. We don't even know what they were complaining about here. We're not giving it. They're just complaining for the complaint, for the sheol of it, for the hell of it. And it's interesting too that the extremities is the outskirts of the camp, and it's the furthest away from the holiness of the center, which is the tabernacle, which the Levites are guarding with their lives. So like we're going to see with Eliezer a little ways down the line. And I put a note here. It's almost like they're on the edge of the outer darkness, right? They're on the outer extremities, and go beyond that is the outer darkness. And, this passage right here has caused me it convinces me. I don't know how this doesn't convince broader Christianity. People have this idea that they don't have to be obedient in life. They don't even have to like Yah's character. They just have to believe in the physical existence of Jesus, his death, burial, and resurrection. I'm not saying there's not power there, but everyone needs to ask a question: are you going to actually enjoy being in his presence in eternity? Because clearly, here in Yasharel in the wilderness, there was a lot of people. They had the Shekinah glory. They had they had Yah manifesting himself in this cloud. He was right there. He was feeding them manna every day. And they were like, yeah, I don't like this. Like they were at the door, the entrance of their tent. They've rejected the man. They're at the entrance of his tent. They're all murmuring right there. So this just tells me that we could be in heaven in his presence, and there could be moral depravity. There could be people there who are going to murmur against him. So this is why we need to choose now in this life to take this as an example and say, let's not be like this. We also see in this passage it talked about a mixed multitude, which is interesting. I'll be commenting on that. So let's look at what the Aramaic Targum says in chapter 11. It says that those who were destroyed, it says, which destroyed some of the wicked on the outskirts. We're talking about the people on the outer extremities. It says of the house of Dan. Now, Pauly, you had brought up the house of Dan tonight. And Pamela made the comment that they actually betrayed Yasharel. So it's the house of Dan with whom was a graven image. It's kind of interesting. The Aramaic Targum is really big on, they always pick out Dan is that they had strange worship. There was one passage that Dan did not see. I think that they may have not, some of them may have not seen the pillar cloud. This is why I brought it up with the theory that maybe there could be enemies that could look in and they don't see it. They don't see the manifestation of Yahweh. It is possible. All right. Oh, and then here's the mixed multitude. They're coming in. These are the ones who are, talking about how good it was, because we need to pick them apart. These were the ones who weren't Yasharel. They were the Egyptians who followed them, and yeah, they had good food. So they're complaining, and this is actually their complaint. Numbers 11, the Aramaic Targum. Alas, for the people whose food is bread from the heavens, and so they murmured. They're like, oh, I mean, this is the whole thing right here. Like, you guys, this was the bread from heaven. This was the food of the angels they were given. And they didn't have a taste for it. And this is the way this should teach all of us here, that we see this all the time, that if we don't desire the food of angels, if we don't desire righteousness, the truth, the Torah, if we don't desire his commands now, why are we going to desire it in eternity?
Might I add one thing real quick? When we see a miracle, every time we see the actual Noahic covenant sign in the actual heavens, and we explain something away, when the miraculous becomes normal, we become immune to the spiritual promise that it gives. So, like, I wake up and I'm like, wow, I've got arms today. I can touch things. I can see. I can walk, I can stand. These were not things that I could do when I was in the womb of my mother. I couldn't talk until I was born, and then I had to develop the things, and then I had to get the knowledge to translate the codex that was my verbal, all these miraculous things that we see every day, we become jaded to them. And here's these Egyptians thinking, oh, look at those guys eating air sand. Yep, there they are, picking it off the ground like peasants. Oh, I'm never going to eat that stuff. Well, I got to eat a little bit to live, so I'm going to eat a little bit, but I don't like it. So they're saying, well, I wish I had onions. Oh, man, those are cucumbers. Oh, so delicious. So they totally forgot what they were going through. Like you're right, Noah. They were slaves. They had to grind their own grass to get the hay to make the bricks, because Pharaoh was mean and took away all they had was the mud. Yeah, so they forgot. That's the biggest thing for me. Is just, you just become immune to how glorious the entire. I'm talking to you. You're like 4-hour drive away, and we're talking to other people who are 4,000 miles away, instantaneously, through a box. Like, I saw this on Star Trek as a child, and I read about it I was like, what? So yeah, no, it's never forget the miracle of everything that we have. Take nothing for granted. And the testament of the old covenant, as some call it, the testament that says, here is life. Here then is life. Choose life. Hey, I'm sold. I'm going to wake up again and again and again until I am awoken enough to become more awakened to my sleepiness from yesterday. May it become brighter tomorrow. May today be the worst day of my life, right? May yesterday be because tomorrow's going to be better. So that's where I'm at, and I hope people. I'm because you can't take your possessions to heaven. I can't take my stuff to heaven. I can take my friends though.
All right. Thank you, Pauly. I just wanted to point out here Matthew 5 and 6. When you line these up with Torah, so we just read about the mixed multitude in the camp complaining. We saw Yasharel complaining. Let's line this up with Matthew 6. These are the words of Yahusha. Like it's almost like he's lifting from this very story. For this reason, I say to you, do not be worried about your life as to whether you will eat or what you will drink. And then we see, skipping down to verse 31, do not worry then, saying, who are we to eat? Not who are we to eat. What are we to eat? It's getting late. Do not worry then, saying, what are we to eat? Or what are we to drink? Or what are we to wear for clothing? And, of course, this is going to be a reference to Deuteronomy, that they wore the same shoes, that their shoes didn't wear out. For the goyim, the mixed multitude, eagerly seek all these things. Right? So he's saying, like, don't be like the goyim. Don't be like the mixed multitude. Just he will provide. He will be our manna. He will be provide for us. Now, this is what Paul has to say. Oh no, this is Deuteronomy. Yeah, I'll go ahead and read this. All the commandments that I am commanding you today, you shall be careful to do, so that you may live and increase. You want to choose the blessing instead of the curse, and go in and take possession of the land which Yahweh has sworn to give to your forefathers. So let's think about the land in terms of our eternal inheritance. All right. We are all wandering through the wilderness. We are waiting to enter the land, and we need to be proved. We need to prove ourselves. And you shall remember all the way which Yahweh your Elohim has led you in the wilderness these 40 years in order to humble you, putting you to the test. That's why we're here, to be humble, to be put to the test, to know what is in your heart, whether you would keep his commandments or not. This is like when you understand, when you just look at the Bible from this perspective, the whole Bible, the whole narrative is either keep the commands or you don't. It's all a test. And he humbled you and let you go hungry and fed you with the manna which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, in order to make you understand that man shall not live on bread alone, but man shall live on everything that comes out of the mouth of Yahweh. Of course, Yahusha later says this. Your clothing did not wear out on you, nor did your foot swell these 40 years. So act surprised when I read this again in about 12 weeks. So you are to know in your heart that Yahweh, your Elohim, was disciplining you just as a man disciplines his son. Therefore, you shall keep the commandments of Yahweh, your Elohim, to walk in his ways and to fear him. For Yahweh, your Elohim, is bringing you into a good land, a land of streams of water, of fountains and springs flowing out in valleys and hills. So, what's the whole point of this whole story about wandering through the wilderness? It's just some, Jewish people a long time ago. We don't have to listen to that anymore. No. This is our life story. They are here set as examples for us. I'm going to get to that passage in Paul, if I can get there really quickly. But who is this lady? Why did I put this picture? This is Moshe's actually mother, artwork there on here. I found this really interesting. The same passage in the Aramaic Targum, it says this, concerning the two men who stayed in the camp to prophesy. But two men had remained in the camp, the name of one Eldad and the name of the second Medad, the son of Elizaphan bar Parnak, whom Jochebed, the daughter of Levi, bare to him when Amram, her husband, had put her away, and to whom she had been espoused before she gave birth to Moshe. What? I had to look at this several times. According to the Aramaic Targum, it's saying that Moshe's mother, here Jochebed, that she, Pauly, I'm going to bring you back in. There you are, Pauly. All right. According to this, it's saying that Moshe's mother, when Amram went off, he went off for like 40 years to Yasharel. He got stuck there because of a war between Canaan and Egypt. That's a whole nother story. There's an account I've read before where he has a vision of the Watchers. But apparently she married this other guy, Elizaphan, the son of Parnak. She marries this guy, has a son with him, Medad, and he dies. And now she's a widow, and then she marries Amram. So that's kind of interesting. So according to this would Medad would be Moshe's half brother. Okay, that's from the Aramaic Targum, something to think about. Kind of interesting. And yeah, and you can see right here. I'm pulling this off Wikipedia. It says that I had to look this up, but Jonathan identifies Jochebed
Sorry.
as also having been wife of Elitzaphan ben Parnak and the mother of Eldad and Medad. Okay, so I guess the mother of both of them. So I was mistaken. It's not just Medad, it's Eldad. And I had to read that several times. It's really interesting. All right. And I love this. I love this line here. Now, for the lack of time, I'm not going to read you all of the Legends of the Jews. It is available in our store if you're interested. Our commercial sponsor tonight, Legends of the Jews, Volume 3. But it says this here, that I'll read you the first few lines. When Allahayam commanded Yashroel to set out from Sinai and continue their march, the Israelites were glad, for during their stay in that place, they had throughout 11 days received new laws daily. And they hoped that after having departed from the holy mountain, they would receive no further laws. Hence, instead of making a day's march from Sinai, as Allahayam had commanded them, they marched incessantly for 3 days in order to be as far as possible from the holy spot. They behaved like a boy who runs quickly away after dismissal from school, that his teacher might not call him back. I thought that was a great line. And it's really interesting that as soon as they leave Sinai, they start rebelling. That is really interesting to think about. I mean, I can imagine that when I was, like 12, 13 years old, I hated junior high. And man, I used to, when that bell rang, I ran out of there, like threw on my papers, like I forget homework. I'm done. I'm done with instruction. It's Friday, right? I'm done with instruction until Monday. That's what they were like when they left Sinai. And again, for lack of time, let's see what else I have here. Yeah, I'll just skip all this.
Bro, you're like on page 34 of 55.
I know, right?
We would get done at like 1 a.m., man.
Yeah, no, we're not going to read all. True state.
All right. So this is Legends of the Jews, right? And that's on your website, theunexpectedcollegebiology.com, correct? And they can purchase this book from what you're highlighted. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'm just going to read this. All right. The true state of affairs was that they had a lurking dissatisfaction with the yoke of the law. It is certain that they had not had in Egypt better food for which they now long. So the writer is saying, look, they didn't have better food. The food they had in the wilderness was actually better than Egypt. They're just making this stuff up. They're just yearning for something. And the reason why is because they didn't actually like the Torah. They didn't like his instructions, righteous living. They saw it as a yoke that they didn't want. That's the whole point of this. That's really what it comes down to. All right. So
I like that
this
verse.
Is the passage I wanted.
Sorry, I was just right below what you just had highlighted up there. Can you scroll back up just real quick? I know we're late. I know. I'm so sorry. Nope. Up. Yeah. Yes, right there.
Right here?
Yeah. Go down a little bit. But in Egypt, they had lived undisturbed by laws, and it was the unrestrained life that they now desired back. When you have a motley crew of slaves who can do anything they want, that's a completely different story, because then you give them rules and you ship them to the desert. I just think that's very telling, that one sentence about their mindset. Okay, sorry.
All right. No, this is the passage from Paul I wanted to really get at, 1 Corinthians chapter 10. Verses 9 through 15, he says, neither let us tempt Mashiach. So Paul is going to recount. He's assuming that these people in Corinth have been hearing the Torah. They're going to Shabbat to the synagogue, and they're hearing Moshe read every single week. And so he's rehearsing this for him. He says, neither let us tempt Mashiach, as some of them also tempted and were destroyed of serpents. Wait, what? They were tempting Yahushua HaMashiach in the wilderness? Neither murmur ye, some of them also murmured and were destroyed of the destroyer. So he's actually identifying here Yahushua HaMashiach as, everyone says, oh, my Jesus is the God of love. He's not the God from the Old Testament. Paul is saying, no, the same Allahayam of Yashroel in the Old Testament, that's our Mashiach. Now, all these things happened unto them for examples, and they are written for our admonition, and upon whom the ends of the world are come. Wherefore let him that thinks he stands take heed lest he fall. So the lesson here is to check yourself before you wreck yourself. We need to, work out our salvation with fear and trembling, right? We need to recognize that These stories are put here not just to tell us about some Jewish people from a long time ago that have no bearing on our salvation or our religious life today. No, these stories we read are so that we evaluate ourselves. Would I be a murmurer? How would this work out if I was there right now? Like every single one of you listening, you should be able to imagine and pit yourself in that camp and go, oh my goodness, would I have been one of those people destroyed? That should cause us all to have a healthy fear of our Creator, the one we're in a covenant relationship with. All right. And remember now, many people are going to be destroyed who think they coast through life and that they're okay, and they're going to be destroyed. Now I'm going to skip this for lack of time. All right. Reading from the last section, and then we'll end tonight. And this is, I really want to spend a little bit of time on this because there's some good stuff here. And of course, chapter 12, we're only reading halfway through, so this won't be too long. Thank you for everyone for hanging in here with us and making this a part of your weekly tradition. And Miriam set forth words, and Aaron also against Mashahah. Uh-oh. So as Pauly said, it's working its way down now to the family, to his brother and sister. So Miriam set forth words, and Aaron also against Mashahah over the circumstances of the Kashayath Shaha, or in the King James, it says the Ethiopian woman. He had taken for himself, for he had taken a Cushite or a Kashayath woman, a Ethiopian woman. And they declared, surely is it only in Mashahah that the words of Yahuwah are set in order? Additionally, does he not set words in order by us? And Yahuwah, the ever-living, heard and responded. And Yahuwah, the ever-living, spoke suddenly in a moment toward Al-Mashahah and toward Al-Aaron and toward Al-Miriam. Come forth, you three, toward the tent of meeting. And the three came forth. This is like an immediate intervention here. He's calling them in before this spreads, because Yah knows if Miriam and Aaron, what they're saying spreads in the camp, it's just, there's going to be a lot more people dead. And we don't think about this in terms of our slander and our gossip, like how many people are affected by this. And thank Yah that he called in Miriam and Aaron when he did to stop this. It would have just been chaos in the camp. Total rebellion. Come forth, you three, toward the tent of meeting. And the three came forth, and Yahuwah, the ever-living, descended in a platform of the cloud mass. And he took a stand at the entrance of the tent of meeting, and he called out Aaron and Miriam. Uh-oh. And the two came forth, and he declared, hear and answer my words. And I beseech you, if there are prophets of Yahuwah, I, Yahuwah, will make myself known in a vision, in a looking glass. I will set words in order in him in a dream. Not in this matter do I set words in order toward my servant Mashahah. In my house he is faithful. I set words in order unto him mouth to mouth, and the appearance, and not in difficult sentences. I like that the King James says not in dark speeches. Pauly, I've been wanting to call a book for a long time Dark Speeches. I probably shouldn't say that because now someone else is going to make a book called Dark Speeches. But quoting from this passage here, and not in difficult sentences, and the form of Yahuwah he shall behold. Therefore, why were you not reverently afraid to speak against my servant, against Mashahah? And keep in mind, they're speaking against his wife here, which is accredited to speaking against him. Kind of interesting. And the anger of Yahuwah, the ever-living, burned against them. And he walked, and the cloud mass turned aside from over the tents. And behold, Miriam was struck down with leprosy like snow. And Aaron faced Miriam, and behold, she was struck with leprosy. And Aaron spoke toward Al-Mashahah, against me, Adonai, I pray you put in place upon us that sin which we did foolishly and wherein we sinned. I beg you, do not let her exist like one who is dead from his coming forth from his mother's womb, and his flesh is half consumed. And Mashahah called out, running toward Yahuwah the ever-living, to declare, Al, I beseech you, I pray healing for her. And Yahuwah the ever-living spoke toward Al-Mashahah, if her father but spat in her face, would she not be disgraced, put to shame for 7 days? She will be shut up 7 days from outside the encampment, and afterwards she will be collected. And Miriam was shut up from outside the encampment for 7 days, and the people did not break camp until Miriam had been collected. Afterwards the people broke camp from Chatzah-Ra'uth, and they inclined in the wilderness of Faran. And I'll just quickly say before handing over to you, Pauly, it's interesting that in this case, they actually waited to break camp for Miriam. Kind of interesting. So, all right, handing it over to you.
Well, first of all, dark speeches has not been written. I just Googled it. But I found 3 interesting things. The first one is I found a picture of Barack Obama. I am not kidding. I'm using DuckDuckGo. The second thing is that apparently Tolkien used the black speech of Mordor from this verse. Third thing I found was that dark speech is a Dungeons and Dragons skill you can acquire as a necromancer when you carry a certain book with you. And you speak from this book and speak the dark speech of that book. So I always get revelation from DuckDuckGo as opposed to Go Ogle. But anyway, that's just what I'm talking about right there. Man, I got nothing on this one except for what I just mentioned earlier with the style of rebuke that he experiences with the Cushite woman. The style of rebuke that he experiences with Yeshua is very different than he does with Hobab. That's very different than he does with Miriam and Aaron. I don't know what they got against the Cushite woman. I mean, we don't know specifically if the Cushite woman was a Nimrodian, from Nimrod or from Sheba or from Ramah, or we don't know. We don't know where he got this lady. They didn't like her. That's the thing. And they spoke against her. And so as a leader, what you going to do? Y'all come into my office, right? We got to talk. So nip it in the bud is really what's going on. And Noel has full permission to slap me around if I ever start talking bad about him publicly. And I'm expecting that I never do. But I'm expecting never to be slapped. But here's the thing: when you're promising someone you're going to follow them, I was joking. I was joking with Noel earlier about my wallet. I've got JCB written on my wallet because I work at JCB, and it's to me a visual reminder because I've got my wealth. Now my wealth doesn't come. This is my wife, or rather a photo of my wife. Doesn't come from JCB, but I know how the wealth flows, and I know who I'm subservient to because I've made a contract. Contract is I'm giving you my time. You're giving me some money. There you go. So when you make a contract with anyone, whether it's your banker, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your child or your or whoever you're in a contract with, you honor that contract, right? You don't go against that contract. What is a covenant? A covenant is the old way of a covenant is you take and you slaughter an animal, you cut it in half, you put it to the side. 2 people walk a figure 8 or infinity circle around these slaughtered pieces and you shake and you exchange fluid, and it's a covenant, and you have promised something. So Aaron and Miriam, they had a choice in Egypt, right? They had a choice whether or not to go with old Mo. What you got planned now? Okay, give me that stick. Okay, I'll do that. Okay, I'll talk for you. Okay, all right, I'll sing a song on my timbrel, right? I just experienced something great. Of course, the song's going to come to me spontaneously. Of course, I want to lead everybody in worship. This is awesome. And then, he gets this wife. She's from the other side of the tracks. We don't know. We don't know. She's a Cushite or whatever. What's going on here? Mo, come on, Mo. And so instead of doing the right thing, approaching him in private and say, hey, we have a concern. So Miriam and I were talking, but no, they're like, hey, you guys, you see that lady over there, my brother Mary? So whoa, no. So you honor the partner or the group or the affiliate or the spouse that you're in a covenant relationship with. You do not slander or abuse or take verbal ammunition, because what is love? Love is when people face back to back, knives out, right? Back to back, knives out. When you can literally backstab someone, that's the opposite of love. That's hatred. But when you trust someone, you love that person, and in a contract, a leadership style, any promise that you make, you have to honor that promise. If you're going to dishonor the promise, have the courage to tell that person to your face, I'm giving you my 2 weeks notice. I'm filing for divorce because of infidelity, or something. Just have the guts and the courage to stand up and say, I believe the contract is ending because of this reason. Don't end the contract incorrectly. And so that's my biggest concern slash life lesson that I took from that. That's what I got, buddy.
Well, I have to say that now many people have suggested that the issue that they took with Moshe's wife was that she was black. I'm gonna actually show that
I think I said that without saying it. You said it. I didn't want to say it. I live in Savannah area where 51% of the population is African American. So a regular person, when I say a person, I mean black folk. When I say a white guy, I mean a white guy because they're the minority. I'm a minority here. So
yeah,
but that's the Cushite. Typically, Ham's children are seen as that haplotype. But I mean, I could be way off. Maybe she was Asian. I don't know.
Well, I will say really quickly, and I'm going to be showing some passages. This is what I want to end on tonight. That where the earliest rabbinical commentators actually had something very different to say than her skin color. Some interesting stuff. Now, I will point out that everybody in their life, everybody, if you're old enough, you could probably think back on an instance in your life where you're like, how did I like? There was a moment where you're like, this is it. I'm going to die. I'm going to die right now. Well, that happened to me when I was in Jordan. And this is where Cush is. I'm going to show you a map. The Cushites, they were kind of on both sides of the Red Sea, modern Ethiopia, and then on the other side in Saudi Arabia. And I'm over there, and I'm walking along the side of the road, and I hear some like bells and things. I'm like, oh, it's sheep. How adorable. So I go and I see sheep, and I'm like, I'm going to go up to these sheep and just say hi to them, right? Because I love animals. And this woman who looked just like this, she's hooded. She's like a kind of like a very dark skinned woman. She pops up from behind a rock, and she's got this. She's a shepherdess. She's got this thing like going around like this, and it's got like some like it's going to decapitate my head. Like it's got some sharp thing on it, and she is screaming at me, and I'm yelling at her as nicely as I can because she's going to kill me. And I'm thinking, I'm just walking. I'm telling the lady, I'm just walking here. I'm not here to hurt your sheep. And she started coming up at me, and I was like, okay, lady. And I just put my hands up and I backed away. Like this was a badass woman. All right. This was a shepherdess. So I think about when Moshe goes and, there's Jethro or Jethro's daughters, they're being attacked by these other shepherds, and Moses jumps in and saves them. Like his daughters already had to be really badass. These were some tough women. And then these were some badder dudes. But all right, let's see what's going on here. Now, this is interesting because this is what the Aramaic Targum says. Now, the reason I'm quoting from this is because the Aramaic Targum is a very old translation. In fact, the Aramaic Targum is older than the Hebrew Masoretic. Now, I'm not saying that to say that the Aramaic is the more correct version. I'm not saying that. However, the book of Jasher is heavily criticized. Many people say it's modern. That it actually is post like Kabbalah and Talmud and all that kind of stuff. I disagree with that. And in fact, I'm going to show that this right here from the very old Jonathan Targum actually is quoting from the book of Jasher. And so this is what it says. And Miriam and Aaron spake unto Moshe words that were not becoming with respect to the Cushite whom the Cushi had caused Moshe to take when he had fled from Pharaoh. Wait, what? So this is not Zipporah, according to the Aramaic Targum. This is not Jethro's daughter. This is a different wife, but whom he had sent away because they had given him the queen of Cush. And this is one of those things. And this is what they said. And they said, hath Yahweh has spoken only with Moshe that he should be separated from the married life? So according to the Aramaic Targum, Aaron and Miriam are saying, we have intercourse with I had to read this like a dozen times to get this. They're saying we have intercourse with Miriam is saying I have intercourse with my husband, and Aaron's like I have intercourse with my wife, but Moshe has no intercourse with this woman, and why do we need to listen to her? We don't like her. We don't want her here. This is the woman. This was a former queen from Cush, from down in Ethiopia. So let's look at this real quick. And according to this, according to the Aramaic Targum, this is not the other woman he married that is Jethro's daughter. All right. So everybody listening to this, you can come up with your own opinion on this. I'm just showing you the ancient, you guys know I like showing all these books. So this is, of course, the Cushite people. You can see here, it's below Egypt. Here's the Red Sea or the Reed Sea. And they put Sheba here, interestingly enough. I don't know how I feel about that, but whatever. There's Sheba, but there's the people of Cush on both sides there. Here's a picture of, very old picture of Moshe and apparently his wife. Kind of interesting. And because I love to slip in pictures of food into all my Torah portions. I hope people are still here. I mean, this is making me hungry for a late night snack. This is Ethiopian food. My wife and I, there is an Ethiopian restaurant down in Florida that we love to go to. We go there whenever we can. And sometimes we're like sitting around. We're in Charleston, South Carolina, and we're just like, let's drive down to Florida. Like, we are hungry for, like, should we do it? Let's drive 6 hours to go down and get some Ethiopian food. I love Ethiopian food. And I'm not done yet. This right here is Ethiopian coffee. And I'm drinking. If you guys have never had Ethiopian coffee, you are missing out. It is one of the most amazing, wonderful treats. It's great for dessert. It's great for appetizer. It's great at all times of day. And the way it's so good tasting, the way they serve it. So I always get this for dessert when I go to Ethiopian food. And here's a picture of Ethiopian women having Ethiopian coffee. Makes me want to take, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I used to own a coffee shop and manage 2 others. Ethiopian coffee beans are some of the best. Besides Sumatra, in my opinion, Sumatra, Guatemala, Ethiopia.
You almost gave me a heart. You almost gave me a heart attack because I was thinking you were going to say that Ethiopian coffee beans are rolled in pork fat, and so I was like, please don't crush my dreams. But
actually, that's why you should grind your own beans, because the USDA still allows 10 pounds of rat manure inside of each bag or whatever that.
Lovely.
Anyway, so my point is, Ethiopia is said to be, if not the birthplace of coffee, or the main place where they started actually growing coffee from the Fertile Crescent. So they moved southwest into what was Sheba. Now what they call the bottom part of the Nile is actually called the Upper Nile, and during many of the ancient dynasties, they had fortresses like the Buhan fortress down in that area. At one time, Egypt was all of the Nile. And I'm sorry to interrupt about your coffee, but coffee is delicious. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I've said so much. I can say
all right.
more. I'll shut up.
So, here's the oldie. I don't think this is the modern Ethiopian flag. You see this a lot with the reggae, but this is they are attributing to the tribe of Yehuda there, which is really interesting. A lot of Ethiopian Jews, something to think about in our timeline history. Okay, let's just skip over this. All right. So reading from Jasher, and I'm going to be closing on this tonight. I want to show you that the Aramaic Targum, which is a very old document, whether you like it or not, is a very old document that predates our modern Masoretic text. And I'm showing that this lines up with Jasher, that they're actually commenting on Jasher, which didn't appear until the last few hundred years, of course. It was, I think, a book hidden away. And it says, and all the people and nobles swore unto him, Moshe, to give him for a wife Adoniah the queen. So I believe that the woman that the Aramaic Targum is talking about here is Adoniah, not Zipporah. The Cushite, wife of Kickan-Anus. Kickan-Anus. It's getting late, guys. I just didn't read right. But, and they, sounds like kick the anus. But, and they made Moshe king over them on that day. All right. And then skipping ahead, we see that so all the children of Cush went each to his home, to his wife and children, and to all belonging to him. Moshe, he had a wife, but he didn't take her as a wife. So everyone's going home to their wife, not Moshe. We're going to skip down. It says, therefore, Moshe turned not his heart nor his eyes to the wife of Kickan-Anus all the days that he reigned over Cush. So he never once, even though she was technically his wife, he never had spousal relations with her, which creates a problem because now his wife is in contempt she doesn't like Moshe because he's like, she wants to be a wife. She wants to have spousal relations. And she says, and Abaniah, the queen, said before the king and the princes. So she's speaking before Moshe. What is this thing which you, the children of Cush, have done for this long time? Surely you know that for 40 years that this man has reigned over Cush. He has not approached me, nor has he served the gods of the children of Cush. Now, this is not complimentary. She is not happy that he has not had relations with her, or that he has not worshipped their gods. So she suggests that she take the son from her former marriage and put him as king. And eventually Moshe, of course, has to leave. And he goes then out to, we see that he then goes out. Yasher 77 says, and Moshe, the son of Amram, was still confined in the dungeon in those. Oh, no, it says, let me skip up. He says, so Moshe went to Midian, for he was afraid to return to Egypt on account of Pharaoh. And he went and sat at a well of water in Midian, and the 7 daughters of Reuel, the Midianite, went out to feed their flocks. You guys know the rest. Okay, so that's how he meets Zipporah. And then you see right here, it talks about Zipporah. All right. So this is kind of interesting because when you get to the legend of the Jews, it's erasing the Cushite woman and saying, no, there was no Cushite woman. It was really Zipporah. But it's weird because she's actually speaking for the Cushite woman. This is what Zipporah says in Legends of the Jews. So when the 70 elders were appointed and the Ruach of Yahweh came upon them, all the women lighted the candles of joy to celebrate by the illumination of the elevation of these men to dignity of prophets. Well, Zipporah, Moshe's wife, is not happy. She's not celebrating with the other women. And she saw the illumination and asked Miriam to explain it. Well, she told her the reason and added, blessed are the women who behold with their eyes how their husbands are raised to dignity. This is Miriam explained to Zipporah. Well, Zipporah answered, it would be more proper to say, woe to the wives of these men who must now abstain from all conjugal happiness. Because Zipporah is now, I think that this is mixing up. I think this is talking about the Cushite woman. But according to this, Zipporah is saying like, well, since Moshe's been a leadership, I haven't had any conjugal relations with him. So I'm not happy for these other 70 men. I'm sorry for them because their wives are going to be as unhappy as I am. And then Miriam says, how do you know this? How do you know that? And that Miriam's fishing for information. Like, how do you know that these women aren't going to have conjugal relations with their husbands? And Zipporah said, I judge so from the conduct of thy brother, which would be her husband. For ever since he was chosen to receive divine revelations, he no longer knows his wife. Miriam hereupon went to Aaron and said to him, I also received divine revelations, but without being obliged to separate myself from my husband. So she's like, I'm a prophetess and I get words from Yah, but I still spend time with my husband. Whereupon Aaron agreed, saying, I too received divine revelations, without, however, being obliged to separate myself from my wife. Then both said, our fathers also received revelations, but without discontinuing their conjugal life. Moshe abstains from conjugal joys only out of pride, because he's not very humble apparently, to show how holy a man he is. And that's basically how it kind of starts. So wanted to point that out. Everyone could read that with your salt shakers for sure, but I think it's interesting. And of course, it says here that Miriam's punishment, the leprosy received. I went in the past, I discussed in the weeks past how there's a spiritual leprous condition, and it has to do with gossiping and slander. When people slander people online, they go around and talk about ministry leaders and others, and they just talk trash about them. That's actually a spiritual leprous condition. I took you through that. And this is what it says right here. This is the punishment ordained for those who speak ill of their neighbors. So leprosy, in my opinion, is always a result of a spiritual condition. It's not talking about those people on the lepers colony over there on the island of Molokai or whatever. There's actually a spiritual condition that people all around us have, that they're leprous, they're unclean because of how they talk about other people. And yeah, I'm going to end it there tonight. So don't worry, Pauly. I'm on page 48. Don't need to go to page 55. Do you have any, thank you everyone for hanging in there with us through this. This went a little bit longer tonight, but it was a good discussion. I really enjoyed having you here, Pauly. Pauly, is there any way you'd like to, any last words tonight?
I just posted a comment about probably a $50 to $75 cup of coffee, a peaberry from Hawaii. I would just like to Yeah, and also Noel's new book, Dark Speeches. I would just like to encourage everyone to go to the Discord channel. Someone, can you link the invite to the Discord page? So a lot of you guys on here who have seen this and put up with me and listen to that guy, you're like, well, I'm so happy that I got to read this, and I think someone in the chat was saying that this is brand new. They're just coming to the
Yeah.
Torah readings, the readings, and it's something that we do, and there's more. If you need a place for weirdos, loners, and goofballs, Noel has a Discord channel, and I'm the president of the Goofball Club. Uh, not that Noel's a goofball or a loner or a weirdo. I'm just saying that when two or more are gathered together, there he is in the midst. And so if you don't have a place to go, we welcome everyone, and we love, we honor, we promote harmony and peace. And please come on by to the Discord. And that's all I have. Obviously, I'm Pauly Hart. PAULYHART.com is my website where I do some things. But I'm just here because I've known this guy for a while, and he said, hey, I'm going to invite you to come do some stuff. And I said, okay.
Yeah, thank you, Pauly. I really appreciate it. And of course, Pauly will be back in a few weeks. I can't remember what date, but it's on the calendar. And that's it, everyone. Good night, and have a restful Sabbath. All praise to Yah. I hope he was honored tonight in our conversation. And my prayer, of course, is that somebody takes a deeper step of obedience to his commands through this Torah portion. So everyone, get your rest tonight, and we'll see you next week. Good night.